Okay. You love to see that.
We're here.
All right, yeah, it's up. It's
We're
live. Are the things in the places?
Yes, they are.
Sounds good to me. All right. Here we go. Welcome to Best in Faction.
The next generation.
Squig!
All right, Chief. I'm Tyler.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Lucas.
And today, of all days, we are back with tournament coverage. It's everybody's favorite. It's time to talk about a GT for the first time in God knows how long. What was it since? What was the last one?
It's like a month, dude.
Arbor Heresy, probably?
No.
Heresy?
But no, we all went to
we were all
Turkey
at
Wars.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys
But
not
like
forget
Turkey
the
Wars,
tournament?
we broke it up into 2 episodes.
Oh,
Anyway,
you're right.
for the first time in who knows how long, we are all of us back. All of us went to a GT, and we have got some games to report on, featuring some crazy stuff. There will be twists, there will be turns. Friends will become enemies, enemies will become lovers. It's going to be a fantastic time. You're not going to want to miss a second of it. But before we jump into all of that crazy coverage, let's get a quick catch up on the boys. How you guys doing? How you doing, Lucas?
I'm doing great, man. For the first time, I think, since I started playing Chaos Knights in, like, July? I think that's when I kind of started. I played Orcs last night. So it's been about 4 or 5 months. Had to, kind of put the training wheels on for turn 1 movement phase. And I was like, okay, now I remember what I'm doing. So I'm very glad I went first. But yeah, man, Orcs are super fun. I've been tinkering with orc lists all week, so it was great to put them on the table against Tyler's GSC. Thanks to Tyler for hosting us last night. That was a lot of fun. And yeah, man, they feel strong in certain aspects and very weak in others, but overall it was great to get them back on the tabletop. I got to play with one of my favorite models who I haven't played with since his points went up because I was just too scared to try him again. But oh man, the beast boss on Squigosaur, painted up in the Goth colors, baby. Goths are the best. And
that dude is a problem.
Yeah, he is a problem. The awesome thing about him is he's such a chunk of your army. Like, he's, 200 points is a tenth of your army? Just this one character. Depending on what relics and warlord traits you give him, he really changes how he plays to the point where it's like basically another data sheet. So it's like 3 or 4 different options of like, yeah, do you want the Goth boss? Do you want the Brutal but Cunning boss? Do you want Headwappa's Kill Choppa? Because that thing slams. Or like, do you want the safe pick? Do you go with the Beasthide Mantle? Like, each combination plays so differently, and it's really fun to keep trying different ones because I want to try the tank boss now. Because the one defensive bit, Tyler, that you didn't see yesterday was he can be -1 to wound. So all of a sudden he's like -1 to wound, -1 damage, 5 up feel no pain, T7. And that guy never dies unless you hit him with like rail guns. So yeah, I really want to try him out. But overall, just having a ton of fun with Orcs, and I'm super excited to be talking about them again a little bit more soon because I'm going to be playing a couple more games with them for sure.
Yeah.
Whew. Man, Orcs are great, boys.
That beast boss is definitely my favorite new data sheet, and I'm very excited to see him crumping again.
Yeah. The Goth trait, guys, gives +1 AP and attack. And he already had basically like 7 or 8 attacks plus the 3 squig jaws. So he already has like 10 attacks. You're giving all of that an extra AP, and then you're adding on an extra attack as well. Like,
Wait. The +1 AP applies to the squig attacks? Are you telling me the squig is the warlord, Lucas?
the model is the warlord, brother, despite Outline Gaming's protestations. Yes. Yeah, but regardless of whether or not it applies to the squig jaws, it's an amazing trait, and I'm glad it's on my list because AP3 is a lot better than AP2.
Yeah.
Hello?
Did Lucas just disconnect for you there, Tyler?
Oh, I lost both y'all for a second there. I don't know what's
No,
going on.
all right. This might be a local
Keep
thing.
going.
There's a lot of wind in the area, so hopefully our power doesn't go out. That'd be a big shame.
Yeah, indeed. All right, how about you, Nick? How you doing this week?
I'm doing great. As I usually do after a GT, kind of like took the week off, chilling a bit, focusing on getting back on a good sleep schedule. I always find I have a hard time sleeping at GTs, so I like stay up really late and all that. I've been really excited. I kind of like quickly rush painted my Votan, which we'll get, or we can talk about now. Those who don't know, I brought Votan to this tournament, and they came out like a week before. There was a little bit of an issue getting some of the kits on time. So it kind of came down to me Thursday night building 2 land trains and then painting them Friday. Actually, I was finishing building one Friday morning. So, quick rush job there. There was a moment where I definitely was not going to be able to finish painting all the infantry, and local friend and 40K player Max Schwartzer was able to come through for me, and he offered his services to help paint, and he did a fabulous job. Since then, he's given me some recommendations on like colors to use, because I think his stuff looks like really good, and it's like just contrast he's telling me. So for someone who's like a baby painter like myself, that's great news to hear. And I've been really excited to like just go back to my like characters and like repaint them, because like I really quickly painted them for this. And they're like, the nice thing about it is like I did it with an airbrush, so it's like real thin layers of paint, so it'll be really easy to just like paint over or like strip really, really quickly. So yeah, looking forward to that. I'm hoping maybe, I know we got Selenoshmas coming up, but I'm hoping maybe like to like paint a model a night or something like that, or like every few nights before then. We'll see how that turns out. So yeah, excited about painting. These guys, there's something about painting just like these little like infantry that's really fun. So yeah. How about you, Tyler? How are you doing?
Very cool. I'm doing great, man. Like Lucas said, we had a very fun game last night. Been whipping around the Mono GSC, also borrowing models to do that from our boy Max, who has been on the show before. Both as a guest and as a feared enemy for some of us. Cough, Lucas. Yeah, it's been having a lot of fun, doing a lot of nonsense. We got Guard this week, and man, oh man, do I have a lot of thoughts about that godforsaken army. I am simultaneously overjoyed and terrified. I'll talk about why a little bit later in the show when we do our reflections and stuff, but they're a thing, so that's very exciting. But yeah, doing good. Yeah, so without further ado, let's jump right on into it, because we have got a lot of games to cover and not a lot of time to do it before we all run out of breath. So we're going to jump right on in here. We're talking about Atomic City Warzone. This is in Tri-Cities, Washington. Tri-Cities, Washington is like just over the Oregon-Washington border, but like pretty far out to the east. Was about a 3.5 hour drive from up here in Portland, Oregon, if that helps anyone try to find the spot. This event was run by our boy Justin, and if I'm not mistaken, this is his first multi-day event. The dude's run a bunch of RTTs. This was his first time getting GT together, and man, oh man, were there a lot of things that he did right, and a lot of things that he did right that we do not see very often. You want to run us through some of the specifics of what made this event so special? Either one of y'all, jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got a thing on the next page if you want to go to that. It's like kind of talking about the tournament details, and then the page after that was going to be, whatchamacallit, like kind of talking about different things from the event. So, if we want to save it for then.
Gotcha, for sure. All right, so Nick's got here by his organization. There were 41 players at this event. It's a 5-round GT. We're doing player-optimized terrain on the good pot. And each table, there were a couple different tables. A lot of them are FLG tables or small variations on FLG tables, though in addition there were a handful of custom tables. And something that Justin did here that was absolutely fantastic is he went through every table and wanted to make sure that everything had sufficient obscuring in particular, wanted to make sure his terrain sets were reasonable. So every single table came with a placard that had listed on it all the traits of all the terrain pieces, and a bunch of things had obscuring that you might not ordinarily expect to have obscuring, which made some tables that looked a little bit sparse actually play very well. There was one notable exception, I think, that we all experienced this weekend as far as tables go, but generally very good for player-optimized terrain. Would you guys agree with that assessment?
I definitely agree with that. I also think another thing is, as awesome as Jason's terrain is, that is one thing that I find often a little bit not wanting necessarily, but just it's nice to have it very clearly spelled out somewhere on your table, because every table had a ton of extra room. Just like slam down a laminated piece of paper that tells you what everything does very clearly and in detail. Whereas Jason's train, it's sometimes a little bit of interpretation and weird shit like that.
Yeah, I know he does the like he'll draw the numbers, or he'll draw like abbreviated letters on the bottom of some terrain pieces, and then I'll have like a placard next to it that explains which of those mean.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a few times that I've been like, is this an O or a D? Like, like
Yeah,
I just want to clarify
like,
before we play this as defensible and then find out, oh, it's also obscuring, like, and it wasn't defense. Like, you can usually figure it out, but there are some wacky pieces on some of his older tables that are like, can we get a clarifying question here?
Yep.
Especially when you already have models on the terrain and you're like, wait a second, does this have dents? I thought it had dents. You don't think it has dents? Oh, we need to pick everything up now to check, as opposed to just let's reference the placard.
The nice thing too with Player Optimize, like, since he's using a lot of old and like newer FLG pieces, it comes with all the benefits and all the downsides of FLG terrain. But it's also great practice for LVO, where you're going to be playing with some of these terrain pieces that are a little hard to maneuver around.
Yeah. I mean, it ain't fun to play on, but like that's what we're playing on over here, so it's good to practice it.
Yeah.
Definitely. And then the last thing that Nick's got on this slide here is strength of schedule for pairings and placings. So we have talked on this show, and my God, have we talked in the Discord about our various thoughts on what the best metrics are for determining the winners and placings and pairings and events. The standard, in my opinion, has basically become everyone agrees everyone on this continent agrees wins first. And then from there, sort of the standard has become win path and then random. That was not how things were run here. He wanted to try something a little bit different. He did go wins, but then instead of win path, he went for wins strength of schedule, which is a bit of a complicated metric. I don't want to get into it right now. But basically what it came down onto was instead of just checking when did you take your losses, it checked how many wins did each of your opponents have over the course of the event, basically as a way to try to mitigate, oh, I get a bad win path because I paired someone very competent very early on. It has ups and downs, and we'll talk more about it at the end again in the reflections period, but it was a little bit different. The pairings were especially weird because sometimes it seemed like you would just play the person who was lined up with you in BCP, because BCP in theory is doing the same things for placings and pairings, but sometimes that seemed to not be the case. I think in general it was easiest to just not think too hard about it and try to move on with our lives.
As far as I could tell, it was a random.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was a mixed bag experiment. We'll talk more about it later, but that was just something to know if you're looking through and wondering why some of the pairings happened.
Or some of the placings too.
Yeah, don't think too hard about it. This is the metric that was used. I don't think it's a metric that we'll be using again in the future, but it is what was going on at the event.
I, for one, am glad that that Justin was trying to move away from battle points, as we'll talk about at the end, what would have happened if the tournament was scored off battle points.
Yes.
I've been, like, in my opinion, robbed one too many times from losing on top table and getting, like, slammed down to, like, 6th place. So it was nice to see at least a change from that. We'll talk about it more in the reflections. So
for sure. All right. We got a lovely picture here of the event hall. Mm-hmm. This was super cool. We had enough room for 2 full rows of tables going all the way down, which was sweet. Plenty of room to get all the way around your table. Little bit tight. You're kind of bumping into people. Little butt on butt action, but worked out great. I think there was plenty of space here. I've definitely played at much more cramped events, and having 360 table access, always very nice. Not something you get everywhere. This venue, let's talk about the Moose Lodge for a minute, which is where this was hosted. We arrived Saturday morning at the venue, and we're like, wait a second, is this the venue? Because like you hear Moose Lodge, you think, oh, it's going to be this big log cabin looking thing, It's like the place we were at in Olympia. I would have believed that was called the Moose Lodge, but it's like this looks like a temporary building, just like really nothing, no frills, very utilitarian. But there we were. But on the inside, it was lovely. It looks like this, and what you can't see in this picture very well, if you go all the way down through these doors, there's like this giant bar area, which was could seat probably 60 people back there, maybe more. full-service bar, which was available the whole time, which was awesome. You can see these little windows here on what's the right side of the photo. There's a full-service kitchen in there. They made lunch, and they made dinner. When have you guys ever gone to a GT that served dinner?
And the dinner
Both
was lit.
nights.
The dinner was the best meal.
Yeah, the lunches were sort of your usual tournament burgers, chicken strips, fries kind of fare. But the dinner was lasagna, garlic bread, Caesar salad, $12.
Yeah.
$12.
Pretty lit.
Fantastic.
Didn't have to go anywhere. Didn't have to figure nothing out.
Absolutely not.
Well, so you get this like nice experience where usually at like tournaments, it's like trying to hang out with your friends. So like, you know, you and your like, I mean, at this point, like sometimes we go to tournaments, we have like, you know, 12 people that we all want to hang out with. So we like go and like swarm like the local place and they all look at us like, all right. But here, and also the thing too is like you might meet people during the day that you don't really get to hang out with. You're like, oh, that was a super cool game. Okay, see you tomorrow. And then like you don't really check in with them tomorrow, and then you leave. It was nice to just like all sit down and hang out together. Like most people stuck around for dinner, and like that's one of my favorite things about Warhammer is like meeting new people, making new friends, and like building that community. So like be able to eat dinner with like your current friends and like your new friends that you made, and like see some person like, oh, I'm gonna go talk to that person for like 10 minutes. Like super nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
You could not agree more. The other thing I want to mention here, I need to give a freaking massive shout out to this TO Justin. We're all playing in games, right? And usually when you're playing games in a tournament, the TO is like sitting at his judge's chair, you know, checking numbers and making sure it's ready and ready to go to judge calls and like, you know, getting some well-deserved rest after spending so much time setting up this big event. Dude was not sitting down at any point in time that I could see. He was going table to table. He was checking in on people, making sure the train was good, making sure the objectives were good. Dude was taking drink orders. What do you guys want to drink? Let me go to the bar and get you a beverage, whatever you need.
And constantly telling us how much time is left on the round, like going to every table.
Yeah.
That's definitely easier at a smaller, not smaller, but like this is a relatively small GT. It's a lot easier to do at that kind of venue than it is at like a much larger tournament. But it was really nice for him to come by and be like, yo, you guys need anything? Are we all good? Just so you know, hour and a half left in the round, you know. It was really
so that
sweet.
was fan-freaking-tastic.
Yep.
And then the other massive props we got to give to this guy is that in the middle of the event, like, was it like round 3 or round 4? No, it would have been round 3 because we were playing. No, it was round 2. Was it round 2? I don't know what round it was. In the middle of the event, though.
Classic.
Do you guys remember what round this was? You know what I'm talking about here?
No, what happened?
The terrain
Tell us
thing.
what happened.
So in the middle of the event, he was in. He had. Oh my gosh, I'm so good.
In
at
round
talking. I should have a
4,
podcast.
I think right before round 4, what he did was he realized that in the the player pack he had described how to divide the terrain.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's what you're
Correctly?
talking about. Yeah,
So
that was day
he talked
2.
to everyone before anything happened and said, "Yo, guys, like just so you know, we're updating how we're doing the terrain drop because it's how FLG does it, and this is kind of like an FLG practice event."
Yeah, he had us dividing stuff the old school way that we were doing like 6 or 7 months ago, where you just cut it in half along player territory, which meant for like the diagonal missions, it was it was Hammer and Anvil, and then for quarters it was Dawn of War. It was very
All
silly.
sorts of dumb stuff that just resulted in stupid games.
Did you guys actually play any games like that?
No, not at all. Because
Okay.
my opponents and I just knew how to do this, but
Yeah.
he'd put it in the pack wrong, and when this was brought to his attention, he was like, instead of doing what every other TO that I know would have done, and said, "Sorry guys, it's in the packet. That's how we're playing it. Get over it. Like, move on. I don't want to deal with this." Dude ran over to his office, printed out a bunch of papers that explained the correct way to do it with diagrams from the FLG packet, came back, distributed them, said, "Hey guys, we're doing this correctly." What initiative!
Yeah,
I-
Justin did a great job.
This dude gets all the props. And that's before we even talk about what I think is the thing that people are going to be most interested to learn about this event, which I'll get to in a sec. Okay, so Nick's got a pile of things here. Table height was acceptable. It's fine. It's kind of the normal stuff. Nothing out of the ordinary there. I've played on worse. I've played on much better, but like, you know, you play with what you have. Bathroom access, solid. Y'all can jump in, by the way, if you want to mention anything.
Yeah, the
water.
bathroom,
Oh
okay.
man.
The
Love this.
water was cool. They brought out actively brought out new pitchers of cold water, which is super sick.
Yeah, pitchers
That's
of
all
water,
it takes.
bucket
The
of
kitchen
ice.
service window.
Yeah, I
all
can't-
free.
I
Yeah.
can't stress how important this is. I always forget to drink water at events because I get so sucked into my games, and then I wake up day 2 with like a massive headache. So events that like shove water in your face, I'm like, thank you very much. It's worse when I'm trying to look for it, and I'm like, oh, I got to go buy like a $5 bottle of water like down the street, like then I forget, and then I get a headache, So
Yeah.
nice.
This is great. And I loved also that it was in pitchers, so you could just fill up
Yeah.
your bottles if you brought it, right? I'm very annoyed when they're like, hey, have some water, and here's a bunch of one-use plastic bottles. I'm like, I don't want this. Stop it.
We already talked about the food. The access to food was like unparalleled. I know Tyler and I talked about this. You talked about this at like FLG events. Like, bit of a bummer if you are like a vegetarian. Doesn't really seem like they have many vegetarian options. But if you're into like, I don't know, like standard American fare, it was like hot dogs. I know hot dogs. There was like hamburgers, chicken strips, and then lasagna, and then the next day was like pulled pork sandwiches, which is pretty good. So, if you're into meat, good access to food.
For sure.
Terrain, we already
terrain
talked about the terrain.
extensively.
The mission
Yeah.
pack. I know that you guys wanted to talk about the mission pack a little bit, which kind of like will lead into
Yeah.
the discussion of the
Yeah,
event.
we'll talk about the mission pack and this. And once,
Why don't we just
when
mention
we
it briefly? Let's just mention it briefly because it was available for us pre-event,
Yeah.
right? The
After-
mission pack
after we
was
locked it
Party
on the list.
Conviction, and then 5 objective missions in a row that are in the same setup, other than priorities, which gets tugged a little bit.
Yeah.
So
And their reasoning for this was they had these nice, they had neoprenes for everyone, which was super nice
Oh
to
man,
see.
yeah,
And
incredible.
they wanted to set up all the objectives for everyone, so they wanted to have the same layout so that they like didn't have to like spend as much time between rounds. What I would say though is if we're already setting up terrain, right, we can spend like the 2 minutes to set up the objectives. Like, not even like we can spend like the limited amount of time to set up the objectives, and then like just play like a more varied mission pack. Like if you're really worried about it, like the one that takes the longest to set up is Data Scry. You could just do Data Scry round 1, and then like set that up for every player, and then every player gets to set up the easy ones. So I would have liked to see like maybe one more 6 objective mission or like scouring or something. So
yeah, the mission pack very bland. And then the idea of we need to have all the objectives. It felt very premium, I will say, to be like yes, here is my table with all of the objectives set up for me because I'm a professional, right? Like that was I understand the appeal of that, but the reality of the situation is if it comes at the cost of playing missions with objectives in different places, I have no interest in that. That was very silly.
we got Nergo Matt asking a good question: hand towels or hand dryers?
Towels. They
Yeah.
they had paper towels in all places.
No dryers, but
What I have yet to see, and then the next level, if any aspiring tournament organizers are watching, if you're going to go around and take drinks, if you want to go around with about 45 minutes left in the round with a basket full of hot moist towels for people, man, that would be. I would pay a lot of money for that event.
Alan is like now, dude. He's getting excited.
yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Sorry, 2 baskets of towels. One that's cool and dry, one that's warm and moist. So you
All
can,
right,
you
dude.
can do a
You
little
love to hear
compress
it.
over your eyes.
Did not know that this was
This
a
is
thing that Tyler
like
needed.
how lovely would that be?
All
Anyway,
right, so round 1, boy.
Do we want to address as well, Lucas? I see another question in the chat about you, saying, "What about the beans? Did you partake in any beans at this tournament?"
No, I debated going, but got a little busy, so couldn't go to the store for a bean refresh. Didn't have any beans to bring.
I will say, follow up on last week. We talked about how to do tournaments cheaply. Like we said, we did stay with our buddy. Imagine Tyler on a clock with him. All right, Colby. So we did that, which was a little cheap. And then, I did pack breakfast and I did pack lunch, and it worked out very well. I did that day 2. Day 1, I tried to buy it. But so that was a big success. All right, so lists here. We're going to run through these very briefly. If you want to hear lots of details about why, what is where, check out our previous episode where we go in super depth so that we don't have to go in super depth right now. So, starting off with our boy Luke the Duke with Dawn and the Doggos. What do we got over here, Lucas?
We've got, Abaddon walking his 11 doggies. We got a House Herpetrax Super Heavy Detachment and a Black Legion Supreme Command. The Herp detachment has a Brigand, Herpetrax Brigand with Warpborn Stalker. I found this guy great for slipping into people's backlines and just shooting things super hard. And it's great that he has revive access. We got an Executioner. He's worthy offerings, so he swaps out the 2 wounds for +1 hit vehicles, monsters, and characters. And then also he has the Mirror of Fates, so the 5 up CP regen. We got 3 Gun Fist Stalkers with Aura of Corruption. That's the -1 Strength Nurgle aura. 3 more Stalkers with Minigun and Fist, and then 3 Stackers with Meltalances and Swords. One of them is a character who is Beguiling Majesty, so she's -1 to hit and wound with -1 attack, Exalted ability as well. And then we've got the lovely Abaddon with all of his traits. And he slams. Gives the dogs +1 to advance. Sorry, +1 to charge and reroll 1s to hit in shooting and melee, which is great. I haven't had a lot of reroll 1s to hit and melee access before, and that was really good. Yeah. And he slams, starting with 2 CP. Great list.
Very nice. Moving down the lines, I've got my weaker than the sum of its parts forces list. We got a battalion. It's a Behemoth double cover. We got a Neurothrope with Catalyst, Onslaught, Paroxysm, Direct Guidance, and the Barb. We got the Flyrant with the Reaper, Glands, Catalyst, Psychic Scream. 10 Gargs, 2 squads of 3 Warriors with cannons. Deathy with Obsec 5, 2 squads of 5 Tyrant Guard with Glands, mostly Talons, 1 dude with a Whip and Sword. Trio of Venoms, 5 Ravs with Death Spitters and Claws, and then a trio of Biovores. And then for my Fortnet, I've got a Sporocyst with Death Spitters, of course. And then I've got a patrol of Cult of the Formed Emperor. Got a Wizard Boy, it's a Magus with a Familiar. He knows Mass Hypnosis, Smite from Beyond, and then, of course, Undermine because he's Formed Emperor. 2 squads of 5 Acolytes, one of which has Lying in Wait as the proficient planning for 3-inch Deep Strike. 10 Acolytes with full 4 Drills and Trap Sprung to charge better. And that's about it on the list. Like I said, check in to last episode for a little bit more details, but that's what we're running. Forces, baby. All right, and then Nick, you want to run us through the dawn of the meta of the Dwarves?
Yeah, dude. So we decided to play the Dwarves instead of the Necrons, which after seeing the mission pack might have been a mistake. But anyways, no, I had a ton of fun with Votann, so it was not a mistake. This is Votann. This is like the standard starting Ymir list, in my opinion. I am playing Ymir, which is the +4 inch range faction that also gets invulns depending on your armor save. I got the Forge Master. He's got the Master Armor Warlord trait. That's the one that lets him heal for flat 3 and 0 out of damage once per battle round for a vehicle nearby. I got the Grimnir. That is the caster. He has the Murmuring Stave, which gives him an additional cast and action casts. He knows a spell that gives like +1 toughness and 6 of Feel No Pain to core and characters. He knows a CP farm spell that doesn't count as your CP, gain per battle round for some reason. And Ancestral Wrath, which is a nice little targeted mortal spell. So good for dealing with those wound cap models. He only does have 2 casts, but, pretty good. Got the Call. He's got a long list, Grudge's End. This is the guy who can snipe guys with judgment tokens. And he also just flings judgment around as things die. Long list, super fun to play with. I highly recommend putting it on any, but make it the first warlord trait you buy. We got 3x10 Hearthkin. These are just the basic troops. They all got a med pack. So the first failed save per, I think, player turn might be battle round. I don't know. They weren't really taking damage, twice per battle round. But they zero out some damage and can bring some guys back, which is nice. 3 squads of 5 Berserks with Mauls. These guys hit like a freight train. 2 squads of 3 Pioneers. That's the bikes with all the little upgrades. They got the scanner, the searchlight, and they got the little 9-shot minigun. I think this wasn't in my original list. I decided to take scanners off the Hearthkin and put the little rotary cannon on the Pioneers, which was the correct call. And then 2 Hecaton land fortresses. That is the giant Hecachonks, Tonks, land trans, whatever you call them. And they got all the beams and a free scanner. Starting with 2 CP.
Didn't want to pay for the upgrade missile, Nick?
Nah, dude, didn't have enough points, sadly.
Didn't have enough points to downgrade all your AP.
Yeah, for those who don't know, for some reason, you can replace the scanner on the Hecatonk with once per game missile for 10 points, which is pay to lose, so don't do that.
What I know I saw something, you had said something about this. What is the controversy on there's like a different printing between the limited edition book and the regular one?
I have no idea. Yeah, I just heard about this the other day. There's allegedly a printing on the Sagittar, it's the little like tiny buggy that I'm not playing, that in the limited edition codex, it gives a few different weapon options. And there's like a Sagittar missile launcher and there's like a L7 missile launcher. And it says those are 2 separate like upgrades you can buy for it. And apparently in the like most like the non-limited edition codex, it just says that that's like 1 missile launcher with both of them combined that you buy for the Sagittar. And the actual kit bit just has like 1 big missile launcher or something. None of this is like confirmed because I don't have a copy of the non-limited edition codex because I bought the, early release box set. And I also don't own a Sagittar kit yet. I'm going to buy one tomorrow. So hopefully. So maybe I'll be able to confirm this or not. But maybe the Sagittar gets an extra missile or not for free. I've heard that WTC ruled that you get that. But don't take it from me. Go do some more research. But that might be a possibility. Which is very silly.
But like you said, not in this list. We'll worry about it later.
Yeah.
Let's head on into round 1. Like we said, round 1 is the only non-5 objective mission we're playing this weekend, which is Tide of Conviction, which I think has become something of a family favorite for this pack.
I love this mission.
It's a good mission. It's the Dawn of War mission that doesn't suck. So props to GW for making that happen. We didn't think it was possible, but you did it. All right. Starting up first, we've got who's playing into this? Is this
was
Nick?
Me? Yeah.
All right, Lucas, you want to run us through this Armarded Lady list that Nick is playing into?
For sure. Yeah, this is a Armarded Lady battalion. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nick. I think Armarded Lady is +1 to hit when you're below starting strength.
Yep.
Is there another part to that as well?
At the end of each battle round in which a friendly unit was like fully wiped out, not battle round, sorry, end of each phase in which a friendly unit was fully wiped out, you get a miracle dice.
Right. So they kind of do a Repentia thing where when their own models die, they still get miracle dice. But it doesn't, multi-stack.
Like if you kill 3 units in the shooting phase, like they get 1 miracle dice.
Yep.
But it actually does amount to quite a bit of
extra. So he has a Canoness with some sword of some kind. He's got Celestine, more involved with her Warlord trait, 3 squads of 5 Battle Sisters, 10 Sacrosants with 5 spear. Oh my god, they have halberds and spears? Holy cow, a whole array of medieval weaponry. We've got a Dogmata with the Sigil Ecclesiasticus. I actually don't know what that is.
I think it lets them know another prayer and chant another prayer or something.
Yeah, it's probably some kind of chanting buff. And then we got a Medic with the Beacon of Faith. That's the better Invuln aura. 2 squads of 8 Repentia, 10 Dominions with Stormbolters, 2 squads of 5 Seraphim with Flamers, 7 Rets with 3 Meltas, and 2 Cherubs, and a Simulacrum. Holy cow, what a unit. And then 2 Rhinos with 2 starting CP. So definitely a departure from the Bloody Rose norm. How'd this game go, Nick?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're setting up. This was against Chris. I know when we started playing, he said he hadn't played in a little bit here, hence why he's playing like Armarded Lady Sisters. He's like, I know Bloody Rose is better. These are just like the models I have right now, and this is what I want to play. And I'm like, hell yeah, dude. Which was cool. I hadn't seen like another sub faction in like 2 years, so it was kind of cool playing it. And also like when he started bringing out the whole miracle dice thing, he's like, oh, I think I get more miracle dice. I'm like, whoa, dude, this is like wild. If we want to flip over to the next page real quick, I think I have like a spread of deployment here, and I can talk about the game on here a little bit. Yep. So those are the different pictures there. So he won the terrain roll off, which on this mission you don't really get to mess up too much, but it meant that he like got to play like an early staging thing out. He was worried about my like shooting, obviously, as he heard that Leagues of Votann shooting is horrendous, and he like he even told me, he's like, I considered playing them for a bit, but like their models took a little bit too long to come out, so I like kind of like lost the hype. And I'm like, yeah, no worries. This was my first game into Sisters with the army, so I didn't quite know which like secondaries to take. So I defaulted to the Ancestors Are Watching, which I'll describe here now because I'm going to be talking about it a lot. Ancestors Are Watching is a No Mercy, No Respite category secondary for Leagues of Votann, which at the end of each phase in which you killed an enemy unit with a judgment token on it, you get 2 victory points. Then for each enemy unit you killed with 3 judgment tokens on it, you get an additional victory point. And at the end of the game, if there are any enemy units with judgment tokens still on them, you lose a point per unit with a judgment token on it. It's a very fun secondary. It feels kind of like Deadly Performance, where it's like this secondary that's fairly easy to score by just doing the thing you're supposed to do. But it also kind of like interacts with how you play the game and how like your army should play the game. and it really helps like elevate the flavor of the army, which I find those secondaries very fun.
It also has clear and defined counterplay, right? Like if you enable yourself to gain a bunch of judgment tokens in the late game, you can subtract like 2 or 3 points from your opponent's secondary, which is really cool.
Yep, we looked it up. How you can gain judgment is killing an enemy unit, like killing a Votann unit, and the Votann player has to give you the judgment when you do that. If you successfully complete an action, you get a judgment, and the Votann player has to give you judgment when you do that. It's not a optional one. The last one is optional though, which is the choosing a unit on an objective at the end of your opponent's turn. It says you can choose a unit on an objective to give a judgment. So you can't really counterplay that. But what's really nice is like if you're going second and the Votann player like hit you really hard, and then like at the end of the game you have like 3 units with judgment around, like just go like run them behind walls and -3 points. That might win you the game. Who knows? Who's ever lost a game for -3 points? Anyways, so I took Ancestors Are Watching. I took banners because it seems pretty good on this mission, right? There's like 3 objectives right there. And I'm just going to like roll towards them like a giant death ball. At least that was my guess. And I took Mental Interrogation. I realized I probably should have taken like Warp Ritual. I forgot Sisters had a 4-up tonight. I was like, wait, this is really dumb. Why'd I do this? But I was like really excited about the whole possibility of equaling or beating their leadership to gain a CP and then using the CP gain spell because it doesn't count for the CP gain per battle round limit. So you can get 2 CP a battle round, which sounded really cool. Yeah, this game basically... He deployed his terrain like very well, as you could see here, like blocking off the objective. So I have to go around, but I got to go first, and he had 2 rhinos. He opted to put the Dominions in one and a Squadra Repentia in another. So there was a Squadra Repentia behind this building here that I waited till he deployed and then counter deployed my bikes over there and then pregame moved them over there and then moved them 12 so they could catch an angle on the Repentia and delete them. Because even though they're not Bloody Rose, I'm going to have to come up and touch those objectives because, there's guys behind the build, like behind the wall, and I'd rather not get counterpunched by Repentia. I'd rather just be like 5 Battle Sisters sitting on there.
Did he take the passion?
He did take the passion, yeah. He opted for a Leap of Faith because, play the game of Sisters, get 12. He opted for Defend the Shrine. Same kind of thing, just pick an objective. He did pick this objective here that I'd set up pretty aggressively towards, and I was able to sadly knock him off it pretty quickly. And he also took Sacred Grounds, which since I was able to go first and take like that shrine objective from him, he wasn't really able to like put a unit on there and have it live through a whole battle round. So yeah, there was a moment in the game, as you can see here on my, I think turn 3, I get 0 primary and I also lose a bunch of banners where he's rolling a lot of miracle dice, which I forgot that our Martyr Lady could do that. But I left my back fairly exposed, so he drops in his Seraphim, and they managed to like scorch my back like Hearthkin pretty well. And then Celestine hops over that crate, and he has a 6 and a 5 on Miracle Dice, and she's like 11-inch charge, baby, let's go. And she just like slams my objective and kills the Hearthkin. And that plus I think he made a 9-inch charge at a Deep Strike with the Seraphim into my other objective, was able to take both of my home objectives and tear down banners, which was like a bit of a bummer. That was like a big mistake I realized with this army. Was like, dang, like you really can just leave your backfield wide open. And that's something to like watch out for. So I managed to clean it up, but like, had that come like maybe like his Rets came out and like tried to kill a land train, and I like failed all my saves and it put it on 5 wounds. It's like, had he cracked a wagon and like maybe killed the Zerks inside and hit my back objective there, I would have been hurting pretty bad there. And so that was like a good lesson to learn, was like, watch my back. So ended with a victory through the Leagues of Votann, 97-30. Because after that like big swing of his, I was able to push back and then just push into his home field. He didn't really have anything left. So Morven went on a tear for a little bit, but she lost her like surrounding like friends, and so I was just able to like mortal her down and kill her with range attacks.
Very cool. Seems like a good way to start a weekend. Yeah. We can head on over to we got Lucas's round 1, which is into another army that we may have heard of before called Ymir Leagues of Votann. Nick, as obviously the resident Votann expert, could you walk us through the Votann list that Lucas is playing into here and how it differs from yours? And, talk a little bit about what else is out there in the meta,
Yeah. So first off, we got Ymir, Leagues of Votann, which is the subfaction that, everyone loves. We do have that Forge Master with the Master Armor Warlord trait. We do have 10 Hearthkin. This guy's playing double patrol, so that means he's basically opting to pay 2 CP to not have to pay like 120-ish points for Hearthkin and turn it into other stuff, which with like the Votann points increases is, a pretty smart decision sometimes because the army got a lot more elite. He's got a squad of 5 Berserks with Plasma Axes. These do not slam as hard, but they can sweep, which is pretty cool. And then he's got a squad of 7 Hearthguard. These are the like Terminator equivalent. It's like the little like egg guys walking around. They have Volkite, which is 3 shots apiece, 6s to hit, do a mortal wound, and the attack sequence ends, which is pretty nice. They can like shoot out some mortal wounds basically. Plasma blades, and then I think they have their like little free grenade launcher. So it's just basically a lot of like low strength attacks from these guys. And they're relatively durable. They're like a 2-up, 4-up, -1 damage, armor contempt, no wound or damage rerolls. So pretty tanky. And I believe he had teleport crests on them, which means once per game he can pay 3 CP or 2 CP. Yeah, 2 CP, and they can disappear at the start of his movement phase and then reappear at the end of his movement phase. And he can do that per squad, which gives the Votann some like much needed like instant mobility. He's got a squad of 3 bikes with all the upgrades and the little like minigun. And then he's got 2 Sagittars with autocannons. These are the little transports. What's cool is like if they come in a vehicle squadron of 2, you can take a squad of 10 Berserks or a squad of 10 Hearthkin and deploy 5 and 5 in each Sagittar. And then for the rest of the game, they count as 2 separate squads of 5, which is really cool for the Hearthkin because Votann kind of have this issue of low unit count. So being able to take a unit of OBSEC and split it up to like sacrifice onto an objective to flip it or like put something out there your opponent has to go kill or else you get a 12. Very nice. He has 1 land fortress with all the beams, and then in his second patrol he's got that long list grudges and teleport crest call. It looks like he had a few more points to spare for the high call. That is the guy who can give out chapter master, which is very good on the Hearthguard squads because now all of a sudden they're shooting a bunch of Volkite shots, re-rolling, fishing for 6s to try to like do a couple mortals to you. The high call also is a cool thing that like when he kills a unit, he can transfer a judgment. So if you manage to snipe something with grudges in, you can transfer 2 judgment because you got a long less. Got 1 more squad of Hearthkin and 1 more squad of 7 Hearthguard, and he's starting on 1 CP. Bit of a bummer here is no Grimnir, so there's no way to farm CP, and also only starting on 1. So he doesn't get to do quite as much as like what I do, which is like dump CP into the land fortress and just blow things off the board. So he's got to be a lot more conservative with the CP in this list. So yeah. How'd it go, Lucas?
Yeah, really interesting list, honestly. I think the biggest change from you can go to the next slide, Tyler. It's totally fine. The biggest change from the normal Votann list is the 14 Terminators, just because they are so damn expensive. But some other cool stuff in here. I definitely like what he was trying to do with the Sagittars. I like what Nick said. It's really good to split Votann units up because they're relatively compact and relatively elite. So just increasing your unit count. Because that unit of 2 Sagittars is basically, because you're buying Hearthkin anyway, it's like 4 different independent units, which is really sick. That 1 fast attack choice, which is awesome. But yeah, a fun game overall. He did get to go first. The secondaries he took were Ancestors Are Watching, Kill Stuff with Judgment, Bring It Down because that's a shoe-in, and then Lay Claim, which is something where I just think slam down 3 objectives in the midfield, and you have to hold them at the end of the game for 5 points. Is that what it is, Nick?
Yeah, you as the opponent of the Votann player put down 3 objectives, and each one's worth 5 points if he holds them at the end of the game.
Yep. And I took Ruthless Tyranny because you take that every time. No Prisoners just to get a couple points out of it, and then Storm of Darkness. I figured I have a lot of Chaos Knights in my list right now, and there's a lot of objectives on this board. If I don't get at least the 3 on my side, then I've probably done something wrong. So 9s felt pretty safe there. His turn 1 was not as aggressive as I think he should have been. He missed out on a lot of shots because he was just trying to like stay back and play a coy. Definitely would have been better if he just moved forward and blasted me with everything he got, or even not move forward, but just got the optimal firing angles and took the shots he could get. So I think I lost a dog or maybe 2. And then I just decided to send it. I basically ran directly at him. There was one key turn where a low health dog bashed a unit of bikes and then tagged a wagon. And this is the weakness of wagons: is if you can tag them with something crappy, they're gonna have to put one of their super important guns into you, and that thing only has like 2 or 3 guns. So if you can tag it with a unit that can weather 1 or 2 of those, you can really shut down the wagon for a turn, and that's something I exploited this game when my opponent moved it too aggressively. Basically, just drove it straight at me. And the Terminators were cool. They shot me a whole bunch. The Mortals are pretty sweet. I would like them a lot more if the Votan shooting phase already didn't have access to pretty good mortals via the Ymir strat and the Beam strat, which both already just give so many mortals to Votan in the shooting phase in particular. But they were cool, and they were pretty tanky too, because the Ymir ones have a 4-up invul. But they just ended up getting ground down by the Armigers. I mean, every save he fails... You can think about it like this. Every like high damage save you fail is going to kill like a 1/7 of your unit. And as soon as that unit's down to like 2, 3, or 4 models, it kind of loses a lot of its efficiency. So wasn't overly impressed by them, but they did a decent job. And the score of the game is 90-38. I think the tail of the tape here is that on turn 3 onward, he didn't get any primary. So I basically just wiped him out, and his lay claim was a 0. So yeah, you can't be getting bottled up against Chaos Knights, especially if they're doing a very efficient job killing all your stuff. It was a good game though. Eric was a great opponent. He was playing Votan for the first time, obviously, like all the Votan folks there were. He definitely knew all his stuff, and I appreciated getting to play against him. He was a great opponent.
Very nice. One question I wanted to kind of ask here. You were talking about tying up the land train and how that can be a really effective strategy because it kind of mitigates the output. But like, aren't all your units war dogs?
Yeah.
Is the train, if it's not in combat, killing 2 war dogs?
If the problem is they all have big bases, so if he comes around to a flank and like shoots down the line, it's terrible if he shoots at long range into multiple war dogs, because then he can get like 4 hits into a bunch of mortals as well.
So it's just the beaming that you're looking to prevent here.
Like, yeah, if I can get him to just put like 2 or 3 of the beams into my one Wardog who's in his face, amazing. Because that guy's on like, 3 wounds or whatever. I'm totally fine if he dies.
Lucas and I have playtested a few times. I think twice. Once pre-nerf and once post-nerf Votan. And even post-nerf, like, the output of the Land Fortress hasn't gone down. It's just the amount in your list that have gone down. I think there was a flank with 3 dogs on it, and I'm like, oh, I want to kill his Mirror Fates guy, because, like, the autocannons are going to kind of, like, be annoying, and I don't want him to get the CP farm. And there are also just 2 dogs in between. I'm like, I'll shoot the Mirror Fates guy, and it, like, beamed through and just killed one other and the one I was shooting and knocked one down to 4, and that was one wagon, and I was like, dude, if you just fail your saves, like, I just killed 3 dogs. Like, what is happening?
Yeah, it was pretty
like
great.
This right here, this picture for our live viewers here. I see this one, the land train is up on the top left, and over here on the right side, we have like 4 dogs lined up. And if he was able to shoot that like black dog in the back, it could hit the white and then like orange dog as well.
Yeah, and lo and behold, this was the turn. Look at that war dog. That was tagging his wagon. He had to fall back.
Oh, that one charged? Yeah. Yeah, if that wagon is screened and the war dog is not able to touch it, you probably lose like those 3 knights right there, which is for sure. It's a good planning. Yeah, I'm glad we tested that out, because the amount of damage they can put out is obscene if you're not prepared.
Yeah. So a good game round 1.
Sense.
It was a lot of fun. Who was your round 1, Tyler? The Fated Encounter.
The Fated Encounter.
It happened on ball, sort of. It can happen again.
So I'm playing into Blood Angels again. For those of y'all who don't follow this, the lore of this podcast very religiously, I have just a terrible record into Codex non-compliant Marine chapters. For a hot minute, way back in the day, Dark Angels have my number. Space Wolves continue to always have my number, and Blood Angels have been pretty bad for me recently. I lost round 6, which knocked me out of the top 8. Into Stephen Box at BAO. I lost to Blood Angels at SoCal this year. Did I lose another important game to Blood Angels?
You lost to Blood Angels successors at San Diego like red scorpions.
Oh, the red scorpions at Sandy. God, yeah, that was the man. That was embarrassing. Anyway, so I've had a bit of a record, and here we get to play into them again. So, Lucas, you played Marines. You want to walk us through this Blood Angels list that I got to play into here?
For sure. So, this is a true and proper Blood Angels patrol vanguard. Man hates his troops. I respect that. We got Dante. We got 5 Incursors. 2 Redemptors with Plasma and 1 with an Icarus. Holy cow. We got a Vanguard with a Primaris Chaplain. Is he on a bike?
Nope.
No.
He's got the Indomitus model just walking around, baby.
Okay, he's got the +1 to hit chance and the plus... Okay, he's got the shooting chance, and then he's a Master of Sanctity. We got a Sanguinary Priest with Rites of War and a Jump Pack. 5 Assault Sense with Drills and Flamers. 5 Death Company with 4 Hammers. 2 squads of 7 Sangers. There we go. All with swords. 3 Inceptors with Plasma. Man's playing in 2020. Let's go. I love those dudes. And then 3 Eliminators with the Sniper Rifles. Eliminators are a great unit, by the way.
The Eliminators have las fusils.
Oh. Well, it says Sniper Rifles on BCP, so that's what I was basing it off of.
I think also he played the Rites of War on the Primaris Chaplain, not the Priest. But neither of these is the point. The las fusils are very important, though. Don't those will come up. So
Okay.
Eliminators are really good.
Yeah.
They got a points reduction, and they're just a nice small unit for Marines to have in a codex full of overpriced stuff. So it's nice to have a really
the
small
las
compact
fusils
unit.
Pretty good.
They're cheap. They forward deploy. The las fusils are great. He doesn't have the carbine. He went for all las fusils, which ended up working out very well for him, annoyingly. But the carbine, if you have it to move after overwatching, they're like super durable when they're in cover against range. Very cool unit. Mm-hmm. If you're a Marine player and you don't know about him yet, I don't know what you're doing. All right, so as Lucas points out, this is very different from a lot of the Blood Angels that I've recently been playing into because of all the guns. However, I'm actually very used to playing into this style of Blood Angels because this is our boy Owen's style of Blood Angels.
Yeah, Owen with the Redemptors, bro.
Absolutely. So Dad prepped me for this one real good. Here's the table. Playing on the Cathedral set, essentially. And, man, what a setup. I can try to hide, but realistically, actually hiding on Cathedral is quite challenging when the Redemptors move pretty darn fast. So as you can see, I basically got almost everything blobbed up in this behind the giant wall in my backfield. I've got a squad of Raveners off to the left. I've got a squad of Warriors off to the right. And then I've blipped out his Death Company, which he was very annoyed by. He ends up, and he's got his Redemptors dead center. One of those, the blue thing there is a painted Space Wolf, but it's just a normal Blood Angel Redemptor. So he's got his little shooting battery there, 2 Dreads, squad of Inceptors, and the Chaplain. And then he's got, in that left building there you can't really see, he's got the Eliminators, and then he's got just 5 Incursors out on the objective there behind the crate. And then on the right side, he's got the rest of his nonsense all piled up behind the wall. So he gets to go first here, and he chooses not to Forlorn Fury because blips are silly, and instead just lines up a bunch of shots. And man, oh man, I haven't fought a Redemptor in a while. That single Redemptor just picks up a squad of Gargoyles just off the hop, all 10 of them. I was like, dang, I couldn't quite hide all. He was able to get a bead on one dude's wingtip, and just there goes the squad. Which was very annoying because
there's a lot of bullets.
It makes sense. Nick asks over here, isn't the Eliminator's move should move only in the shooting phase? I believe my understanding is that it operates anytime they shoot, which includes Overwatch. You might want to double check. I'm not a Marines expert.
You would definitely. I thought it was shooting phase only. But
yeah, I think it used to be Overwatch as well, but I think they changed it.
We should talk to Jake about that then, because maybe he's just using it to jump them. I don't know. Anyway, so maybe that's the case. That used to be the thing back in the day, was why they were so cool. So if it's all las, he was taking all las, so it didn't matter. But yeah, so he gets some shots off, shoots some dudes down. Secondaries wise, here let's talk about that real quick. I took Psychic Interrogation because he has a bunch of characters that want to be aggressive and no psychic defense. I took R&D and I took Behind Enemy Lines. This is kind of this list's what I've been treating as the go-to 3. Over the course of this event, you'll see that doesn't end up sticking around, but that's in my brain. That's what this list does. All that worked out pretty fine. If I don't lose the Gargoyles top 1, it works out even better, but that's how it goes. So he does that, And then on my turn, I'm thinking, all right, he's playing pretty defensively, sitting pretty far back. Let's win the staring contest, right? Because he has taken No Prisoners, Banners, and Blade of Sanguinius. And for Blade of Sanguinius, he has selected Dante and the Death Leaper. And I'm like, all right, bro. So Blade of Sanguinius, for those of y'all who are not aware, is a secondary all about declaring a challenge. So you pick one of your characters and one of my characters. And if my character dies by the end of the game, you get 5 points. If you kill him in melee, you get 10 points. And if you kill him with the unit with your character that you selected, you get another 5 points. So it's if Dante kills Deathy in combat, full 15. If Dante shoots Deathy, that's 10. If something else punches Deathy, that's also 10. And if something else shoots Deathy, that's 5. So those are the options there. And also, I think there's a caveat in there as well that if you don't, if he dies to something stupid, like if I take him off the board on turn 5 and then he dies because he can't come back, you get the full 15, which is a very good catch on their part because I would totally do that. Excuse me.
Yeah, it used to not say that, which is a very silly counterplay. Also, small update before you keep going. Mm-hmm. Eliminators are only able to move, shoot, move in the shooting phase. I believe it used to say shooting attack, but it's since been updated to 9.
Gotcha. Cool. Sounds good. Yeah. So I'm thinking that's fine. I'm going to punish your primary. I'm going to knock down your banners. And then I'm going to score and I'm going to keep Deathy safe. And then I'm going to score a bunch of points and I'm going to win the game that way. Like, you'll have to come out to me. And then once you do come out to me, we'll go get him. So, to this effect, I send my Raveners up to go kill those 5 infiltrators. They get all the buffs on them, so they'll be hitting on 2s, rolling 1s to 25 attacks, and then they'll be strength 7 plus 1 to wound. Seems great. Obviously, he pops Transhuman to try to blunt this, and I'm thinking this is totally fine. The math is like 24, 25 hits, 12 or 13 wounds. He's only got 10. He's got a 6-up save. Should be fine. And then I only roll 8 wounds, and he fails all his saves, but I only kill 4 dudes. And I'm like, oh, well, that's a problem. And then he just auto-passes them. And I'm like, oh, yeah, of course you'd do that. Cool, and he's OBSEC and I'm not. So I'm just kind of stuck there. Darn. The banner is still there. The objective is not mine. There's no tertiary out of that. And I am feeling a little bit sketched out because that was a big part of my punishing plan. But I do wrap him. That's a very important thing here is I do wrap him and he does stick around. So on his turn 2, he says, all right, we got to deal with those Sangers now, don't we? And drops, or to deal with the Raveners, and decides to drop in his one squad of Sangard is on the table, one's in Deep Strike. He drops in the second squad of Sangers and goes for a 9 on them from his backfield, which I don't think is like an inherently terrible play. He's also got the Redemptor and Dante going over there. His thought is just, I want those Sangers to be in this spot, and this is a way to get them there. Which, totally valid. So he goes for that. Doesn't go for anything. I had to, position a bunch of dudes in really weird ways to make sure he wasn't going to have a 9 on Deathy anywhere, because I can't let that happen. He hits the charge, which is hype, and then they fight. He charges a whole bunch of stuff, and they fight, and then the Raveners are like, oh, well, we're still fully juiced, so we'll Behemoth fight on death, and they wipe the Sangers. They're like, all right, we hit on 3s, roll 1s, but then we wound on 2s, and you have a 2-up -4. You have a 5-up save with AOC, and 2 wins apiece.
We got a dark Behemoth. I'm calling it now.
Get it out of here.
I will say also, I was under the false impression that the Behemoth strat had limited you to only fight the guys that fought you, so I put all the attacks into the Sangers, which ended up working perfectly. They only killed 6, and the last guy ran to morale, because he was going to die. But then or he had already auto-passed.
Yeah, you could have fought Dante or something.
I could have fought Dante. Dante was positioned in a way that would have been really hard to do that. I could have killed the Infiltrator. That would have been big to get his OBSEC off of that, which would have been super easy because he's not transhumaning one dude. I mean, maybe he is. If he is, props to him. But anyway, it ended up working out really well for me, as you'll soon see. And then on my turn 2, this is where things get fun. I see that he has positioned a bunch of dudes forward. I start asking questions about what Redemptors do in combat, and I make a decision. And the decision is that the Drill Squad is going to end this game right now. He's got his blue Redemptor is then standing in the forest there, And I'm thinking, okay, you got a forest. I've got 1 CP for tunnel networks, bro. Ignore Overwatch and difficult ground. Vaguely. You can look up how it works. We're going for it. So we drop in front there, charge in, hit the 8-inch full rerolls, and then pile console very carefully, such that I get onto his home field objective and the objective on his right. The drills, oh my god, they whiff so hard. I leave his dreadnought on 1 wound. They only rolled a single 6 to hit out of their 12 attacks. If they roll 1 more 6, it takes 2 more mortals and dies guaranteed. Like, it was so close, but that dude survives at 1, and I'm so annoyed. Punches back, fine. He ends up with morale, gets pulled out of combat, that's fine. I still hold both of those objectives, get my 2 points of tertiary. Maybe I think I can test one, hold the other. Get my 2 points of tertiary for holding the one on the right, and then hold him to 0 primary, and prevent him from getting his command point for not holding his backfield on. Or no. That's not this mission. That's No, that is this mission. Yeah, that's this mission. So yeah, prevent him from getting a CP, hold him to 0 primary. Feels great. And you can see he gets no primary on turn 3 because of that. He went first. I also then drop in my 5 rats. I don't remember if it was the 3-inch squad or the 6-inch squad. It doesn't matter. In that top left corner there, behind the building, such that he'll have a hell of a time trying to get anything over to it to do any damage, other than like the Las Eliminators. And the Las Eliminators say, screw that, and they shoot and kill the Sporocyst. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Because, yeah, that's frontline terrain for you. He was able to cut a bead from that inside his building, in his DZ, basically, to my Sporocyst behind my wall. Which is like, all right, yeah, that's how the game works. Cool. And then he collapses in, and then I've been piling up all my Spore Mines on that flank as well, and the Spore Mines go a little bit berserk. In a single movement phase, the Spore Mines kill the Red Redemptor from full, Dante from full, and the one dude that's over there, the Infiltrator. Admittedly, this is like 4 squads of mines that are doing this, but like...
It's still dumb.
I hate this unit. It's so silly.
So they do that. Like I said, he doesn't go after those 5 acolytes, which is fine. And then I go in and... but he does... Does he charge them? No, I didn't need to interrupt, right? Yeah. So then I go in. The 5 dudes that was dropped in the back there come in, urge the Las Eliminators, and then he and I also charge. No. They charged him. I'm trying to remember this correctly. Yeah. I think they went back and they charged them, while he then also charged Death Company into those warriors that are on the bottom right. And he starts with the Death Company because he's very scared of the warriors. Punches him, inches him down. This is top of 3, and then the Eliminators go in, and I interrupt because he fought the warriors first, and he's like, "Oh, okay, cool, whatever. What's your 5 rats gonna do? My 5 rats are Strength 4, AP 2, fool. They have 3 attacks a piece, 4 on the leader. Yeah, 4 on the leader, 3 attacks.
Let's go, rats, dude."
Rats, and like all his durability is only against shooting. So on AP2, he's just taking 4-up saves, 2 wounds a dude, 6 wounds in total. Bop, 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 and they kill all 3 of the Eliminators, the Blood Angels Eliminators.
Yes, sir.
And he's like, oh snap, that's a problem. And they're not quite able to get onto the objective just yet, but they're in perfect position because they don't even want to be, because they want to score behind enemy lines anyway. And then on my turn, they just walk right up, take that objective. I think they also charge and kill the single incursor there. If the mines didn't, I don't remember what happened. No, they don't. The mines killed him. Okay, so they just walk up and stand there. Then on my turn 4, he's got just the 2 plasma inceptors on that backfield objective, and these rats are mad. But the plasma inceptors are in the forest because he didn't want to take the -1. The rats go over 6, advance another 4 to go 10, and then 1 CP advance and charge, 1 CP tunnel networks to ignore their Overwatch and the difficult, charge in, only get within an inch of the 1 plasma inceptor who had already taken a wound of damage from some stray shooting earlier, beat that guy to death, and then he's pulled out of combat and stay on the objective.
Nice. I love that trick. That's a fun trick.
The rats are, unfortunately, Taylor Swift, the rats do run this city. That's probably over everyone's heads. But the rats run this city, baby. The rest of what else is happening in the game is basically inconsequential. He eventually does get into Deathy with some Sangers and kill him, which I'm fine with because I've done the math on the scoreboard, and I'm like, here's Deathy, have him. Just to draw him in, my entire army dogpiles on them. His Centurions run up this right flank eventually. You know what Centurions don't like?
What?
Undermine.
Yeah, probably not, my dude.
When you're movement 5 and I slap -3 move, have advances on you, you kind of just stay in place for the rest of the game. So they got immobilized. They were left at the end of the game. Didn't matter. Killed everything else and took the table. Final score 85-56. Sorry to make that kind of a long one, but it was nice to get some revenge on the boys in red.
Sure, this guy was all like, "Man, why does this guy hate Blood Angels so much?"
He got the Blood Angels, dude, for vengeance.
You're yelling at Stephen Box's Centurions. This guy's a poor man.
That trick that Tyler mentioned, by the way, guys, is a great combat trick that I don't see people execute a lot, and it's a really effective one, and it's really fun as well. Basically, all you need to do is check at the start of your charge phase if you're nearby an enemy unit that has a wounded model. If you can put your unit only in combat with that one model, it doesn't matter if your unit whiffs. You will not take return damage because you're definitely going to kill that one wounded model. And then this is only really applicable where like tagging doesn't matter. So if you want to keep the unit tagged, definitely spread out. But if you're worried about retaliation damage, just hang out with that one wounded dude and mob up on him. It's fun trick.
Absolutely. Very cool. So all three of us winning our round one. It's very nice. I feel like one of us always drops a game somewhere stupid early. Hopefully that doesn't happen coming up. All right. Moving on into round two. And this is where the objectives are going to be for the remainder of the game. In this case, it's Death and Zeal flavor.
Oh, it's the
Death
kill
and Zeal
everything.
Is the quarters with the... This is the kill a unit, flip an objective. 2 points for one, 3 points for both.
Yep.
And we're starting off with Lucas's Goff list. Oh, wait, no. This is Nick. This is Nick playing into Goffs?
Yeah, dude.
All right.
I'm
Lucas,
playing the orcs. I'm hyped.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, dude. I've seen orcs on the shelf for like 2 years, and I haven't seen them on the table for like 6 months. Actually, that's a lie. I played them at LVTT, but I haven't seen Goffs on the table in a while. So this guy, let's have Lucas describe this as he's
absolutely
the resident Goff.
Yeah, he's definitely an orc player. He's never played anything else. Go ahead, Lucas.
Whoa, all right, boys. So there was one guy playing Goffs there, one guy playing orcs in general, and he was playing Goffs. He had a battalion, kind of a mismatched list of just kind of everything orcs have to offer. Is in this one. We got a beast boss on Squig with brutal but cunning B-side mantle. We got Zagstruck to be the second war boss in disguise. We got a weird boy with super sub orc body, Fists of Gork into Crunch, which is an anti-horde spell you don't see that often. 10 Snaggers, 2 squads of 10 Gretchen, 4 Meganobs that are truck boys, 2 squads of 10 Mandos with a Squig, Claw, and Ram, 3 Coptas, 4 Piggies, 4 Warbikers, got a Kill Rig, a Burn Obama, a truck, so just one of every unit, and then a Supreme Command with Makari and Gaz in it, starting with 2 CP. Quite the list.
Hey, dude. So orcs. I mean, I've played against them a lot. I've never played against them with Votan. He got the first terrain drop, which, as you can see there, he opted to put that like weird T-shaped piece of terrain, which was obscuring down in the middle. So I was like, okay, that was a bit of a bummer. I screened in such a way that he couldn't like wah and hit the wagons, but also he like deployed his truck boys pretty early over in that corner with Gaz. So like I wasn't that worried about him hitting with something super hard. I was more worried about those things advancing like close to me and him tagging stuff. So I was trying to make it as annoying as possible. I did end up going first in this mission. I guess I should talk about secondaries real quick. Secondary wise, I assassinate because he had like 7 characters. And I'm like, I'm probably going to be killing 5 of them over the course of the game. I took the Ancestors Are Watching because we're going to be scrapping and there's going to be a lot of judgment flying around. I took Banners, which was a mistake. I should have definitely opted for something like Warp Ritual after seeing how this game went, or Mental. I just kind of was like defaulting to Banners because like my mind was I'll table people by like turn 3 and then put up Banners like turn 4 and turn 5 after some early banners. But it's mathematically impossible for my guys on corner deployment to go put a banner in that top objective there. So yeah, not great on this deployment. That was a good lesson to learn. I won the first turn roll off. I managed to, as you see there, put a wagon touching the mid terrain, and it just like blows up a plane and a bunch of other stuff. And then those bikes in the top corner blow up some things there, and that wagon down there blow up something there. So I hit him really hard. He does call the wah in response, and he gets a pretty big charge with some mega knobs. I think it was like an 8 or a 9 into these land trains down here, which was a bit disappointing, but is what it is. From there, I was able to basically like shoot the mega knobs out of combat, kill a bunch of stuff, but my land trains are still stuck there. And Gaz isn't in this picture, but Gaz is down there and he has a 9-inch charge away from the land trains. But I'm like, I'm going to kill everything else I can see here, like this beast boss and these mandos and those mandos and that weird boy. And he's just going to be left with a kill rig, which you put in deep strike on the teleporter pad. 3 Def Coptas, which are also in deep strike, and Gaz. And if Gaz doesn't land that 9, I'm pretty sure I win the game. If he lands the 9, I'm pretty sure it's like, a 20-point game. And like, I think I can pull it out. Gaz does land the 9, which is pretty hype in all honesty. He just fucking table flips a wagon and then walks up the next one. He's like, oh, it's me, Gaz. I've been like throwing like a blade of shots over to him. And so I haven't done any damage to him yet because this guy just keeps bossing his saves. So I'm at this point, I'm like, okay, I either stay in combat with a 12 wound Gaz, hope my Grimnir gets smite off and the targeted smite off and does 4 wounds. And then I hope my berserks like make a charge. And I'm like, you know what? This is all like too much hope. And there's a kill rig right here that can deny my spells. So I'm just going to back the wagon up as far as possible. Throw like every unit in my army in front of it so that Gaz can't charge and tag the wagon again. And we'll be good there. He does end up going for this like ramming speed charge into the wagon, which there's a little bit of confusion on how vehicles interacted with walls and everything like that. We just basically ended up agreeing that it was like a 17-inch charge because he does have to measure the up and over distance of the wall. He doesn't get to go through it. Fly does not ignore walls in the charge phase. And I'm like, dude, it's a 17, but like, go ahead. Rolls an 11, re-rolls it into an 18 or something. And I'm like, okay, I guess you charge my tank again.
Ramming speed, baby.
Yeah. So I was able to stay in combat with them and shoot them out of combat and like shoot some grots on the back objective out of combat. And at this point, Gaz is at 8. So I just smite Gaz, shoot Gaz, punch Gaz. This was one of those games where Gaz having 3 judgment and my Hearthkin just sitting around with when they're within half range, which is 14 in Ymir, count as AP2. I was just like pumping Gaz with like Autar bolters and just like, all right, here's like 10 idiots that do your wound cap. Did manage to close out the game, but it like definitely let me like, okay, like orcs can do this thing where they can still lurch their whole army forward instantly. They can still put a lot of pressure on you. And Votann, as I said, are a very elite army now. They don't really have the screening units. They don't really have the like maybe output like to deal with all of orcs like little trash. All it takes is one orc like living and touching a wagon, and now that wagon is like stuck there for the next turn, which is a bummer. So it was good to know. It was a little bit disappointing. There were a lot of like rules mistakes in this game from my opponent, which like luckily we're able to catch because I know how orcs work because I play, Lucas taught me how to play against them all the time. So I think that if there was less of that, this game would have been a lot closer. But it was still a super fun game regardless. And I mean, I look forward to testing it out in Lucas because I definitely think I got to respect Orcs' Votann. So yeah, good lesson to learn. Ended with a Votann victory, 85-65.
Very cool. Yeah, I definitely see Votann having that potential problem with something with this much kind of pressure on it, right? We always talk about the way to beat Votann is to kill all the stuff that isn't trucks really quickly. And this list certainly seems to have the capacity to do that. So I'm excited to see how that matchup plays out in the future.
What's next?
Cool. All right. I do also want a quick aside here. It has been brought to my attention that the rats don't run the city we do is not a Taylor Swift quote. It's actually a quote from New York City Sanitation Commissioner Jessica Tisch. So my apologies to both Ms. Tisch and Ms. Swift for confusing who said that really funny thing. All right. Moving on. We got Lucas playing into Grey Knights. Nick, do you know Grey Knights better than I do?
Probably. Yeah. Max
Walk us
plays
through
them all
this.
the time. All right, this is Rapier's Grey Knights. I sadly don't know what Rapiers do, though, because Max only plays Prescient Brotherhood. I think they're like better in melee or something. There's a Librarian. It's the Terminator Libby. He's got a bunch of stuff. He knows like Purifying Flame, Vortex of Doom. He's got Psychic Epitome for the +1 mortal. He's got a Combi Melta. He also has the Foretelling of Locus, which is I believe at the start of the first battle round, you can redeploy 3 Grey Knight core units. We got a Grandmaster Dread Knight. He's got Gate, Empiric Amplification, First to the Fray. So First to the Fray is the fun when you're in engagement range with a enemy unit, any other unit that charges that gets +1 to charge. He has the Gem of Noctu for like the once per game +2 or 3 to cast on usually Gate. It just basically makes Gate like almost guaranteed, which is really nice. He has the Sigil of Exigence, which is the when he's shot once per game, he can teleport away. We got Drago. We got 3 squads of 5 strikes with swords, some servitors for some backfield holding, 3 squads of 10 interceptors with swords. That's the guys who can like move 12 and teleport. We got another Dread Knight and a single Razorback with a las cannon, starting on 3 CP. So Lucas, talk about this game. You're pretty familiar to Grey Knights.
Yeah, this was if we go back up to the list slide just for 1 second. Yeah, this was a really cool list. I have not played against rapiers in a while, and they are definitely they have a slightly different not play style than Prussian Brethren, but they hit a little different as the kids say these days. They really what they do is that you lose access to the Prussian Brethren +1 CP chant. Warlord trait. That's what they can take for extra CP, and then also the 1 CP real ones to hit and wound for any Prussian Brethren unit. Also a really good reason to play that sub faction. But what you gain is a Warp Charge 6 power that gives +1 attack, and that's the Brotherhood power. So you can multicast it, which is really cool. Warp Charge goes up 1 each time. And then also a 1 CP strat for 6 explode in melee. So these guys really love hitting you really hard in melee. And he's built a list to try to get to melee as fast as possible. I mean, he's got 30 interceptors. He's got that Razorback, so he can cram strikes in there. And he's got them Dread Knights for plenty of teleporting action. And a Librarian who starts in Deep Strike. So a really scary list that can definitely do a lot of damage very quickly. And moving to the next slide here, we've got the results of this game. So I took this picture right as turn 1 was beginning. We were kind of on a bit of a funky table. All those pipes basically are dense and difficult. So they are -2 to move around, and they are also -1 to shoot through. And these were definitely an annoying terrain piece for me because as much as, it slowed down his infantry, I also had to kind of go around them. So I was getting move blocked by them quite a bit. This was definitely a very clunky table for knights anyway. And yeah, so he unfortunately... What's up?
I think this photo should be posted on one of those Twitter accounts entitled "Pictures that Precede Unfortunate Events."
Indeed, yeah. As you can see, I've deployed basically on my front line, which is going to cost me dearly in a moment. But yeah, between his redeploy and quick movement and the fact that we are on table quarters, he charges me with 25 or 20 or 25 Grey Knights on turn 1. I think he was supposed to get with like 25, but then he like failed one of his longer charges, so it was really only 20. But I had 25 right in my face. And he tags a dog and kills another one. So only 1 dog lost. My response is pretty brutal. I kill basically all those Grey Knights that are right in my face. So I am able to kill, I think it's 21 Grey Knights in total. And I actually do manage through some shenanigans to get my Ruthless Tyranny on this turn. Yes, via some pile in and consolidate shenanigans. So I do manage to get onto the objectives and prevent his primary from going out of control. But what I do not get is in a good position to stay alive through the next turn. Because then this lovely man, Joel, drops in all of his reserves, moves up all of his characters and remaining Grey Knights, and kills like 6 dogs. It was pretty brutal. And then that turn at this point, I'm kind of strung out all over the board with dogs at low health and stuff like that. And I make the critical error of sending Abaddon backward because I'm terrified of this Grey Knight Librarian man. I just want to get rid of him. And he's dropped into my backfield in the lower left corner on turn 2. Spend my Red Corsairs to run over there and bash them. I'm able to do that successfully, but that means that on the following turn, he just kills all the rest of my War Dogs. And all of a sudden, I've got 1 like half health dog on my backfield and Abaddon. And I've also bled him a similar amount, so he has just tattered units all over the place. We had basically both tabled each other on turn 2. But his remnants were on all the objectives, safely getting points and hanging out, and mine were in my backfield because I had made that crucial mistake on turn 3. Abaddon, Blenders, power armor, especially Imperial power armor. So the faster you can get him into the fight, as long as you make sure you stand in front of him so he doesn't take damage in the psychic phase, the faster you can get him into the fight, the better. And I definitely made a big mistake there, and it cost me. His Purifying and Bring It Down were obviously automatic, and then he took behind enemy lines. That was part of my calculus for why going backward with Abaddon was the right call, because it would shut that down very quickly. But he still managed to get a 10 points out of it, because as soon as Abaddon was in my back corner, he just walked into my DZ from the front. Kind of forgot you could do that.
Whoops.
So yeah, overall, a game where I got smashed in the primary just because of how fast he drove up on the objectives and took the table. And at the end of the day, my list, it hits hard in melee and it hits hard in shooting, but overall it is a shooting army. Like, you can just move block the dogs so that they don't get a ton of melee effectiveness. And so getting your shooting army charged on turn 1 by a bunch of pressure is never really a recipe for success. So unfortunately, through a ton of great play on the part of Joel and my own foolish mistakes, this ends up as a 95-66 Grey Knight victory. Definitely a great game, one in which I had a lot of fun. Did get 4s all the way through for holding my backfield, but really, you really don't love to see a 5 in Ruthless Tyranny, boys. That was all the Chaos Knights dying in the first 2 turns. Definitely a very brutal game, and it was a lot of fun to get to slay some of the Emperor's lapdogs.
Very nice. So yeah, I definitely see the Abaddon play being questionable there. Talk a little bit about this this deployment situation. Do you think that things get that much better if you sit a bunch further back? But it doesn't seem like he actually
further back.
Yeah.
I mean, what I really should do this game is take it very slow and measured, because my shooting is better than his. If I just take a shooting phase or 2 to get a couple of points, but also take chunks out of his army, like obviously it would have been ideal to go first so I could get a whole round of shooting into him for free. But going assuming I go second, because that's the worst case scenario, that's the worst of the 2 cases, I should have just been further back. So I would have gotten turn 1 instead of, having to deal with all these crappy Grey Knights that are right in my face when I want to be shooting that Dread Knight down. But,
were these pipes obscuring?
The pipes were not. The pipes were basically forests.
Okay, cool.
This is a sketchy table, man. Yeah.
It's interesting that he put like
really
a pipe way up front.
Forest, because basically what we did was like, okay, if a knight wants to go over, you can like scale up it, because no forest is like you can't go through this forest. None of them are not reachable, So yeah, but still, it slowed my knights down a lot, and I basically never crossed that long pipe into his backfield in any way. So
gotcha. All right.
Yeah, it's basically just like a crate with dense cover. It's a nightmare.
Great.
Cool.
But a good game, and great game to Joel. He's going to go on to do very well. So very happy that I got to play against him, because he was a great lad to play.
Yeah,
nice.
We were warned about this guy. Mitchell was like, look out for Joel, and for good reason.
You knew what he was doing.
Cool. Click on over to my run through. Who wants to walk through this for a minute there? For a minute in the pairings, it looked like I was going to get to play the Blood Angels again. But it ended up being Salamanders, which are, Salamanders.
Let's bring in resident expert Harry.
You got him waiting in the wings right here. Hey, Harry, what do you think of this list? It's terrible. It has Primaris units. Anyway, walk us through this list. I don't know which one of you know Salamanders better. Tell me about it.
I can do it.
Yeah,
Sweet.
We got the resident power.
We got Salamanders Battalion. It's not successors, it's true Salamanders, like a Chad. He's got a Breath Ashmantle. He's got a Foot Chaplain. What is it with Foot Chaplains? Okay, with the Litany of Faith and Recitation of Focus. Okay. He's got Vulcan for them Chapter Master rerolls, 5 Incursors, 5 Infiltrators, 5 Intercessors, so the full Primaris suite of troops. 2 squads of 3 aggressors with Flame Fists.
No. Those are not 3 aggressors. Those are 6 aggressors.
2 squads of 6 aggressors with Flame Fists. We got an Apothecary with the healing upgrade, 5 Vanguard veterans, 5 Assault Marines, 2 squads of 5 Eradicators. So this dude is in love with Gravis. Holy cow.
Sorry, it might have been 2x5, not 2x6, I think, Nick, is what it ended up actually being.
Either way, this is a whole lot of Gravis and a whole lot of awesome characters, and that's about the sum of it.
Yeah. So Eradicators are a thing, man. Like,
especially against you, because you're so much like high strength +1 to wound, you can just transhuman. And then also there's 2 ways for Salamander Gravis to get +1 to save against damage 1. So he can just turn off your AP4 It's kind of scary, dude.
Yeah, and the Eradicators being like, oh, your Tyrant Guard, that's cute. AP 5 +1 to wound, D6 +4 damage. Like, get off. Get out of here, brother. Yeah. So, like, there's some real things to be concerned about here. Unfortunately, Marines are terrible. So let's talk about what happens here. Here's a mid-game shot. This is one of those tables that I was saying where the forests have obscuring. So, like, those warriors piled up behind, and my sports behind the forest, they're not out in the open to die. They're actually very, very well covered. It's hard to tell what's what here. The lighting isn't fantastic, and his Marines are kind of dark. They were very pretty, though. Nice, typical Salamander's green. Yeah, I won't go too much in this game. I'll talk about that. Once again, this was another game where my turn 1 whiffed way harder than anticipated. We're playing Death and Zeal, and he ends up going first, I think. Does it say here? Yeah, he goes first. Yeah, of course, I knew that. And he runs Spore Mines into Marines is cheating. Yeah, Gabe? Yeah, it is. So he runs into the center with his big ol'... Oh, sorry, let's start with secondaries here. So he takes No Prisoners, Banners, and Promethean Creed, which is a complicated secondary. Lucas appears to have disappeared. But when he gets back... Do you know how it works very well, Nick?
The summary is basically... Salamanders pick a no man's land objectives, and then they get bonus points for holding it at the start of their turn, and they also get bonus points each time you try to kill a unit on it, and like it doesn't die. Yeah, I think it might be like infantry or something. Yeah.
They also get points when units on the objective kill stuff.
Yeah,
or maybe when other units kill stuff on the objective.
Mega defend the shrine. Like, don't just sit on there, but like go crazy on it. Like, whoa, it's gonna be a party on this objective.
Yeah. He also, like I said, also a squad of infiltrators is the one other thing that I'm concerned as heck about, because I can't, like, I don't like that. I like to deep strike. So I deploy very heavily looking to turn this into a triangle game, right, as you can see. And he says, all right, screw you. My Promethean Creed is the bottom right objective. I'm going to put 5 infiltrators and 5 incursors on it. What are you going to do about that? And I was like, oh, I don't know. That's weird. And then he parks all 10 of his Eradicators up on that top part. And then he parks all 10 of his Flamestorm Aggressors like right dead center and says, come and get some. He throws his Flamestorms into the middle. And of course, Salamanders, they have that crazy Born Protector stratagem where if you're within 12 of the thing getting charged, you can Overwatch yourself and then you can Heroic 2d6. Which is nonsense because Eradicators get Chapter Master both hit and wound full rerolls from Vulcan. So it's like, okay, cool. If I charge anything within 12 inches of Eradicators, that's 10 shots, full rerolls, hit and wound on 6s. Yikes. And then they'll move and come on my objective. So we have to be like super thinking way ahead of everything here. And here's how we make it happen. I run the Raveners in turn 1 to go after that center objective, and I'm thinking, all right, Raveners, we're going to go kill some aggressors. They're going to frickin' die. I don't even need to kill them. I just need to kill a couple of them, right? And then they're not going to kill much of me. I throw Paroxysm on them, so they're -1 to wound and melee and can't fire Overwatch. I very carefully position so no one else has line of sight on me, so they could Born Protectors potentially onto the... no, they're too far away to Born Protectors on the objective at this point. So like it's all set up very nicely, looks very safe. The Raveners go in. They shoot first. They do nothing, basically. They go in. He pops Transhuman. He pops both -1 AP stratagems against them. And suddenly his dudes are taking 4 up saves. And again, out of my 25 hits, I roll 8 wounds on 4s.
Man, dude.
And, so I kill an aggressor. And I'm like, all right, well, that's great. Just need all 5 of my dudes to live here. He's hitting on 4s. He's wounding on 4s. How bad could... No. Bonk! He kills 3 of them in combat, and then 1 more runs away. And I'm like, all right.
Amazing, dude.
Have a 12, I guess. This was a terrible plan.
Unlucky.
So that's going on. Meanwhile, I am... Our boy's popping off in here. Anyway, I'm piling up Spore Mines on that top left objective with Deathy, Gargoyles, and Warriors on it. So, like, he cannot afford to go over there, and he's just not going to get through to me. And then, here's how we decide to deal with that bottom right Promethean Creed objective. My Tyrant is basically positioned at the top left-hand point of my deployment zones where he's deployed, kind of up between the building and the forest there, in a place that he's protected by the Tyrant Guard. Tyrant Guard are fairly obscured, and like the 24-inch range is a big issue for the eliminators. And I'm still taking 4-up saves against the AP4 turn 1, so that's fine. We say screw it. Turn 1, we run both squads of Tyrant Guard down into the right at that objective, and we jump the Tyrant way over there as well, so that turn 2, she is crashing into that objective because I am tired of that nonsense. In the process, the Tyrant Guard, second like tournament in a row this has happened, where I'm like, all right, it'll be fine. The Tyrant Guard will go over there and they'll protect her, and then they fail their 5-inch charge with a CP reroll, and I'm like, okay, Tyrant's gonna go in. She's got Catalyst. She'll try. And then, of course, he pops Transhuman. I kill a bunch of dudes, but like there's no way I can. I can't. I don't kill. I kill 4 dudes because he pops Transhuman, and I can't roll to wound very well, and I'm spending CP elsewhere. So she's stuck there for a turn, and I'm like, all right, let's see what you can do over here, bro. And Brayarth just walks over and goes whoosh, and she disappears, which is very annoying. He's wounding her on 4s because he's +1 to wound. She's got a 4-up save, so it's very coin flippy, and yeah, he just hoses her down. So Tyrant goes down, which sucks, but the damage is basically already done. The guard are over there. The Acolytes have Deep Strike over there. We got Venoms over there as well. We just dogpile that objective, make it happen. Deep Strike into the backfield, hit the 8, kill the 5 intercessors back there. And then the one other thing that was absolutely criminal is what's about to happen in this picture is the gargoyles are going to jump into the middle there to go after everyone who's already in combat there, as is Deathy. And the gargoyles are going to pile console and tag both squads of eradicators, get one dude who is within engagement range of both squads. Bunch of punching and combat's going to happen. They're going to kill all but 2 of the gargoyles, one of which will be that dude, one of which is a dude in Synapse. Pass morale because I'm in Synapse, pull the dude in Synapse because of coherency after that, and that one gargoyle has now tied up both squads of eradicators. And sure, one squad's going to pistol him to death, and then the other squad will get to shoot, but they weren't able with pile consoles to touch that piece of terrain, or maybe he just didn't see far enough ahead to do that, so he's actually not able to shoot anybody because he's behind the obscuring. So that shut his entire army down for a turn. And there's just no coming back from that. He's not on any objectives anymore, and I end up pulling the game 93 to 56. Looks sketchy for a minute there, but like overwhelming force is the thing. The other thing to remember is like Flamestorm aggressors to me on paper seemed really, really scary because it's like, oh no, they have +1 to wound and reroll all wounds potentially, and like, no, they're strength 4 AP dash. They don't do anything. They're terrible. I needed to just like accept that they were going to shoot at me and not care about it so much, and I would have gone a lot better. Something shouldn't really have Arads within 6 inches of each other anyway. He wanted them both to be within range of all the buffs from the Chaplain and the
Vulcan.
Vulcan was why he was doing
that.
Anyway, it was definitely not ideal positioning, but it's how it ended up shaking out.
Well done. Yeah, Marines definitely have a bit of an issue where they're a very elite army these days with all the points increases they've been getting over the years. But unlike Votann, they don't have gross damage output as well. So you can kind of just tank their damage and then run them over, which is a bit unfortunate. So hopefully we'll be seeing something for them soon.
Indeed. So end of round 2. Nick and I are 2-0. Lucas is 1-1. And we'll move on into round 3, Tear Down Their Icons, better known as Bomber Mission. And which game are we talking about first? Talking about Lucas, our boy, playing into Chaos Demons. Nick, you want to run us through this Demons list that he's playing into?
Oh, yeah, dude. I love Demons. So this is undivided because it is 2 patrols, one of which is Khorne, one of which is Tzeentch. The Khorne patrol is led by a Bloodthirster with Armor Scorn. It's a +1 save against damage 1 weapons. And yes, it has been FAQ'd to modify demon saves. Indomitable Onslaught. I forget what that one is. That's the wound cap, correct, Lucas? All right. Then has a second Bloodthirster with Argat, the King of Blades. This is the like Chad Axe. That's like 3 damage, ignores hit and wound mods. And then Rage Unchained, which I think that's +1 strength, +1 attack.
It's the fight up a bracket.
Ah, very cool. So this guy, very cool, because Bloodthirsters bracket pretty poorly. So this guy has to go to like 4 wounds or something for him to like be bottom, like be even like mid bracket. 2 squads of 10 letters, 4 Blood Crushers. Those are the Hell Cows. 5 Flesh Hounds. That might be, was that 4 or 5 Blood Crushers?
4.
Okay, cool. I was just make sure I didn't miss the sergeant. And then the Zinj Patrol has a change caster with Boon of Change, Gaze of Fate. That's like the keep Warp Storm points, which is nice. And then the Lord of Change, which has pretty much all of his upgrades. This is his Warlord, I believe. So it has the -1 to wound Warlord trait. And it has the Impossible Robe, which is the Gateway, which is the big AoE mortals. Then we got 10 blues, 6 flamers, 5 flamers. And it's starting at 0 CP. So yeah, Lucas is very experienced in the demons. Tell us how this went, dude.
This was a pretty fun game. I played against our boy Leland, who I think this is his first tournament with demons, so he's definitely still learning the army. I think he managed to not lose his Tyranids, but they left his possession, which was a big bummer. So he is starting a new army, and it is demons. The first thing I always do when I play against demons is check out their greater demon complement. Usually for most folks, that's like at least a Thirster and Be'lakor, and then fill in with extra Thirster, Lord of Change, or Skybrand. This list does not have Be'lakor, which is a big upgrade for me because that guy is scary. Instead, he's got a double Thirster and a Lord of Change. So I'm going to have to deal with a double melee beatdown. And unlike some demon lists, this list isn't too light on the ground. It has 2 big meatbag corn units between the Blood Crushers and the Flesh Hounds. Still's got 20 letters. He's got the 10 blues for the backfield, and he's got some flamers as well. So he's got some quantity as well as quality. And that Lord of Change, by the way, most people are not playing, or at least I'm not seeing him in many lists that aren't up here in the Northwest, but he's really tough. He's T7. He can get to T8. He's -1 to wound, and he blanks a save every turn, or maybe it's phase or something like that. He is remarkably difficult to kill. And remember, he's got that 3-up invuln against ranged shooting. So you're definitely going to have to kill him in melee. And even then, he can still, be -1 to wound and all that good stuff.
Kill him in the movement phase.
Okay, not everyone is a Spore Mind gang, Tyler. All right, some of us are playing with actual models. So yeah, here is this was something we did not mention in the before we got into the tournament report, but the whatchamacallit, cathedral tables where the 2 big pieces are kept together in the middle of the table. That was also something that I think should probably be revisited because that was pretty cumbersome and very annoying to play with. So in this game, the wonderful Leland made me the defender, which meant that I scooted that building back further toward my DZ, or like toward my side of the board. And we went back and forth, dropping some buildings. Unfortunately, these buildings are kind of chonky enough that you can't really hide behind them. So Leland was having some difficulty fully hiding from me. And I was able to create a nice open place in the middle of the battlefield where I can just move my knights around with impunity. This is generally the thing that I've found to be the most effective when playing Chaos Knights, is just clear areas of the board that you want to move your war dogs in. When you're placing your terrain, just clear those areas so that you can have as much freedom of movement as you want, because otherwise the 100mm bases will get in the way of each other. Yeah. And my general game plan here is to hope to go first so I can get a round of damage into him. If not, before we think about going first or second, we also got to know what he's putting in Deep Strike. I actually left my Warp 1 Stalker on the board here. I think his extra guns are worth it just for shooting at big guys on turn 1.
Totally agree.
Got to know what Leland's putting on the board, right? So he's got his Wound Cap Thirster on the board because he's Armor of Scorn and Wound Cap. That guy is very hard for my army to shoot, so he's going to take a lot of damage to take his Wound Cap. And then also the Lock, just because he also doesn't really take any damage to shooting, especially with -1 to wound. So he's got those 2 on the board. And unfortunately, Leland does go first. So he moves up very aggressively. This is his turn 1 positioning. I am able to yoink that middle objective from him, so I just move up as little as I need to make sure that his drop turn isn't going to smash into more than like 3, maybe 4 dogs total. He does his drop turn. He smashes those 3 or 4 dogs. And then what happens is, through a combination of Abaddon just being generally a badass, very good into demons, and my knights doing a lot of damage in that next turn, I'm able to kill his Thirster without any defensive buffs, kill his Blood Crushers, and do about half damage to the Lord of Change while putting the wound cap guy down to 4 and tagging with Abaddon. So basically what I put Leland down to in that following turn was the 2 units of Flamers. And Flamers are good into Chaos Knights, don't get me wrong, but like the 2 of them are combining to kill 1 War Dog because I'm going to rotate, which is a rate of attrition that that's worth it to me. What I can't allow him to do is bash a War Dog with a Thirster and then tag another one. That's definitely like worst case scenario. So locking down the Thirster with Abaddon and killing the other one with shooting was definitely a big swing moment. And eventually Abaddon meandered his way over to the Big Bird and beat him down because that guy is really hard for my Armigers to kill with -1 to wound. But yeah, it was just kind of a slog to take care of all the demons and lock them down and make sure they weren't going to be getting 2-for-1s by killing and then tagging. But yeah, it was definitely a good game. Being able to use that wound cap in a more not defensive but more utilitarian role where it's not so much about the damage that he's doing or the fact that he's not dying, but merely the fact that the enemy unit is staying in place, hanging out with him for a turn because I physically cannot die and he cannot fall back and do anything, is a really cool trick to do with models like Abaddon, Gaz, anything that has a wound cap. So yeah, he did well in reality. Chaos Demons always do. Bring it down, of course. Most people are going to do well on that against me. And then Warp Ritual as well. I did shut down the bird on turn 3 with a 4-up deny. And then in the following turn, Abaddon had Slam Dunkied him. So Leland was only able to get a 3 on that, unfortunately. And then for me, Ruthless Tyranny obviously did amazing. Bring it down. I killed his 3 big guys. I got 12 points. And no prisoners. Leland's list is a fair amount of wounds. I couldn't really think of another better one. Just figured play the game how I normally would and get some points from killing his stuff.
Yeah. Do you usually take like Abhor when you're playing into the like Be'lakor lock?
Not usually, list? Honestly. Okay. I only really consider Abhor when it's like a really psychic heavy army, like Psychic Tyranids or Grey Knights and maybe Thousand Suns. That's basically it.
Gotcha.
Because this list only gives up a 6 on Abhor because it's only
Well, I'm just thinking like those normal lists with like what I see sometimes a list with like Be'lakor, Lock, like Footcaster, Fate Skimmer. That's 12. But yeah, probably better to just go for the safe 8 on no prisoners.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is also the kind of list where it's very easy to be like, oh man, I should take Assassinate because like look at all these characters. But Bring It Down is just better.
Yeah.
Right? Like technically you could get a 13 if you kill all 4 characters, but holding that down to a 10 for not getting that stupid little Zinch dude on foot versus getting a 12 basically automatically for playing the game. Definitely the right call and something that I think that not enough people are looking for.
Yeah, if they have like at least 3 greater demons, Bring It Down is 100% the call because that's just kill the 3 things you need to win the game, get a 12.
Yeah, the only exception they're gonna fling them at is if they have like if they're taking like double Exalted Flamer and the Chariot or something like that.
Yeah.
Now I start thinking about Assassinate instead, but yeah, it's good call. I agree with your secondary picks here.
Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah. So great game to Leland. Ends up 89-68 in the Chaos Knights' favor. Definitely a game he could have swung if his drop turn was a little bit more effective, but I managed to mitigate that pretty well.
Cool. And then round 3, do you want to do my game first or Nick's first?
Haha. Very funny.
Team kill inbound. Team kill.
We get to do This is a bummer because Tyler and I are both undefeated, and we get paired into each other, which means one of us is going home 2-1, and one of us is going home 3-0. Well, going on the next day. We played this in a practice matchup, and I got smoked. But I also think I learned a lot from that matchup, which was very good. I guess I'll kind of talk real quick about like what I was thinking going in, and you can talk real quick, and then we'll just kind of quickly go through the game.
Sounds good, yeah, because the gameplay itself is not super interesting.
Yeah, let's talk about the board first. We also got the giant fuck-off cathedral, which, yeah, this is a much better picture here. That thing is in the middle. They ruled that it can be rotated 90, and then it has to be moved up and down the deployment, like, split line, to the minimum point that it is no longer over the token in the middle. So Tyler wins the defender roll-off, which means he gets to move it. He also, for some reason, this board didn't have the terrain split up into halves, which means the defender gets to pick like which halves they want. which means if you look at those 4 buildings there's 2 which have a pretty good amount of windows and 2 that have like no windows on like some sides. So Tyler took the 2 buildings with like no windows and moved the thing into my DZ. So I'm already at a huge disadvantage. So, thanks, player optimized terrain.
I gotta say, learn from the best. Thank you, Stephen Box, for this hot tip.
Yeah, did he do that to you?
I mean, that's why I was in a bad situation in the first place at BAO, because I was like, all right, cool, this is super easy. I'm going to shoot all your dudes, and he was like, you're not going to shoot any of my dudes.
Yeah. They also ruled that the big buildings only have to be 4 away from each other on this board, and that the only things that need to be 6 away from anything are the giant piece of terrain in the middle.
Yeah, but every single piece of terrain has to be 6 from the thing in the middle.
Exactly.
Which is nonsense.
Yeah.
Like,
and the forests are also obscuring on this board, which was very weird.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, they were.
What?
Yeah. That's why I put mine that way so I could go touch it.
Oh, yeah. I remember now. Yeah. I should have used that better. I totally forgot about that. Yeah. Okay.
So weird things there with the terrain. Already kind of a clown fiesta of a game. What I learned from the game with Tyler is if I just let him tag the wagons with like gargoyles and like other trash after it charges and piles and consolidates into me over and over, he's just gonna win the game. Because but not by like a lot, but like 5 or 10 or something like that. Because he can just take mental or warp ritual. He can take banners or R&D, and I think, what was the other secondary you took in our practice game? Did you take behind?
I took behind, and you completely evacuated your
yeah,
DZ,
because I went very aggressive in our first game we played, and he just put guys behind walls because with player place terrain, you have to place every piece of terrain, so there's gonna be some walls so you can hide behind my DZ, and he just got like a 15 on it or like a 12 or something. So I'm like, okay, this is a bummer. So I have to like go full force at him, but I was also like trying to mitigate your drop turn as much. The secondaries I ended up taking, I took no prisoners because you give up a lot of kills, so it's like I'm gonna have to kill you to win. I thought that was better than the action one because I took the ancestors are watching into you in our practice game. And the bummer part is, since the Biovores and Sporocysts are spawning Spore Mines every turn, that's an action, and I have to give them Judgment. Yeah. And also, like, if the Flyrant is coming in and Warp Ritualing or Mentaling, that's an action. Banners, right? Deathy, that's an action. Like, there's a bunch of Judgment I have to give Tyler.
And we're playing Bomber Mission, so if you let me just, like, sneak some dudes into your backfield and throw up a bomb, like, on turn 5, boom, that's a -1 point.
So that's a bummer. So that's why I took no prisoners. I took mental because I thought that'd be better than warp ritual because I didn't really want my Grimnir hanging out in the middle because I'm like, that's really easy for Tyler to come in and just kill him and then deny me all my warp ritual points. And I took grudge match over assassinate. So let me tell you what grudge match does. Grudge match is a very funny Votann secondary that I'd only ever taken once in a practice game long ago. So grudge match is you pick 5 5 units from your opponent's army, one of which has to be their warlord, and you get points for doing certain things to those units. You get 1 point for killing it, you get an additional point if you killed it in melee, and you get an additional point if you killed it and it was worth 150 points or more. There's a third part to it that I'll talk about later because it's funny that I forgot during this game, which was not smart of me. So yeah, Tyler said he will be right back, which is a bummer because I was about to pass it off to him for him to describe how he was going to take.
What's your general approach here? Are you going to drive him guns blazing, or are you going to play a more reserved game?
So if I went first, my plan was to advance like that entire army forward, like just advance the troops 8, advance the wagons like behind the troops. I was trying to do like a staggered approach with the wagons, where like the one with 2 berserks is like in the front, and the one with the 5 berserks is kind of behind, so he can't do the thing where he like charges the Hearthkin and then consolidates into touch both wagons. He can only consolidate into touch one wagon. So hopefully like my other wagon is free to like go around the screen and shoot stuff, or like shoot things that are like maybe exposed, because if he touches both wagons, then he's able to expose his entire army, as long as he touches me with something tanky enough that can soak both their shots. Even then, if he touches them in like an unfortunate location, that one might not get a good angle like to shoot his army. So I was trying to make it so he couldn't basically touch both wagons and like end the game. I was also trying to be a lot more conservative with the bikes here. I used them as screens in our first game, but because they're like fast with a lot of shots, they're one of my best tools for killing his fast obsec and also dealing with spore mines. So I wanted them, and they're obsec, and they're my only fast obsec. And as we all know how Tyler likes to play the game, he likes to play the game denying primary and like flipping points. So I knew I needed to keep my fast obsec alive if I was to like try to win the game in the end here. What about Tyler? Yeah. Real quick
Yeah.
here, we can see from the terrain and the objectives you took.
Yeah.
Give us some game plan.
So my thought process here. So my like I said last game, my usual 3 secondaries is interrogate, behind, R&D. My first thought was, oh man, we're playing bomber mission. I'm not taking R&D, and the reason for that is that instead of R&D, I could be planting bombs in basically all the same positions that I wanted to be in anyway. And secondly, banners on this mission is almost as good, right? It's like it's a 10-pointer versus a 12-pointer, but if I then get one extra bomb, that's huge. And if I go second, basically if you go second, your last bomb is free. Is a really big deal here. So I'm thinking, if I go first, I'll have a lot of good opportunities to block off a lot of his stuff, and if I go second, I'll have a really big points advantage. So that'll be great. I did still take interrogation, which felt fine. And then I did still take behind enemy lines, which turned out to be a very big mistake. Nick definitely picked up, learned some good stuff from our last match. I was expecting him to again full throttle me, especially once I saw the secondary situation. Right, basically once I saw the table setup, I was like, okay, this is gonna be great because I have these new school FLG ruins with the windows plugged, so I can put a bunch of OBSEC and regular models on my objectives and just chill. And he's gonna have to come dig me out, right? Like he has to, because I'll get to futz with his stuff, so he has to come at me. And if he's gonna drive full force of me behind, is free, like it was in our practice game. That ends up not exactly being the case. And then I see Nick's secondary choices, and it's like, oh, you're going to get points for killing Flyrant, Tyrant Guard, Raveners, Drill Squad? Cool. Well, at least 3 of those things I can just keep super far back in these boxes and chill with, and that'll deny you a bunch of points. So that was my thought process, was interrogates will be what they are. You know, it's kind of a dicey situation because we both got wizards and we both got at least a non-wizard character, so like that game will be fun. My banners should be very good. His no prisoners should be very good. And then grudge match I should be able to really mitigate. My behind should be pretty good. And then I will we'll see how the bombing situation works out, but I think I'm in an okay spot. Because also, like I said, if I hold all the way back, his no prisoners doesn't actually end up being crazy hot. Right, so there's potential for points there. So if I can knock his primary down a couple of times, I feel like I'm in a very good spot here.
Basically, my game plan was to try to exert enough pressure to force Tyler to send units out.
Exactly.
So we start off the game. I joke, and I'm like, hey, roll to go second, lol. And turns out that was actually, that is what we wanted. Tyler had to go first, which was a bummer. He immediately starts putting spore mines in annoying locations, like lining the walls there to basically make it impossible to charge him. Which is super annoying. I really hate that.
If you have not played into spore mines on first floor blocking, it is silly.
Yeah,
it is like even if you allow the WTC live in walls thing, which I think everyone on this pod agrees you absolutely should. So there's no charge blocking. It's just a screen that you can't shoot and that you can't meaningfully interact with.
You got to the point where it's like, here's a nice like maybe 5-inch charge like later on in the game directly into like Tyrant Guard. But if I want to, because I can't end inside a spore mine to go around it, it's now a 9, and I'm like, okay, awesome. Yeah. And I'm also all the spore mines are still blowing up because I'm passing along them to get the closest charge angle. It's like if you want to avoid them, it's a 14-inch charge, which is impossible. It's like, okay, well, awesome. So he immediately starts putting spore mines in annoying locations. I advance my army forward, keeping like one of the wagons back and one of them forward, and like one of the bike squads back and one of the troop squads back to try to deny this behind plays that he's doing, basically. We just kind of, play back and forth with mentaling and haha, hoo-hoo, funny stuff. Judgment keeps going on the Flyrant, and I'm like, dude, I can like gat that Tyrant. And he's like, bet, dude, I'll make some 4-up saves. And so we have this funny little mini game of me being like 4 wounds with grudges end, and he's like 4 saves with invulns, and I'm like, 4 wounds grudges end. He's like 3 saves. And it's like, okay, that Tyrant eventually gets down to 3, but she bossed her saves that game. It gets to the point where, let's go back a page. There's this really funny shot of a land train flying through on the right side. I cleared enough spore mines, and I'm like, oh my god, I can move. Like, I can cross the midline. There's no spore mines blocking me this turn. And I spend a CP to rocket the land train 22 inches through this cathedral. And at this point, Tyler's like, cool, I don't care about putting them behind walls to block you. And he just creates a cage around that land train to stop me from getting to his objectives. And so heading into turn 4, my land trains are as close as they've been. I'm like, I need to disembark all the Zerks this turn to try to get some points. And I basically line up like 3 really important 8-inch charges, and I only make 1 of them, which is a bummer. And they whiff. They whiffed a little bit too. So I only ended up killing like half a squad of Tyrant Guard.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer.
Yeah.
But hey, is what it is. At the end of the game, that squad of bikes that I'm able to keep alive comes flying on over, helps me plant a bomb. I get a 12. I win by 3. Oh,
2.
Crazy.
You win by 2.
2. Yes, thank you. 68 to 70.
That bomb is everything. The bottom of turn to grab the 12 is everything. It's only this close because I was able to flip primary once, but because Nick is able to go after my behind so hard, and also the turn before Nick fails all his 8-inch charges, he bosses charges to get down to kill acolytes. That was sick. Razor thin margins back and forth here. I only pull a 4
mental
on behind.
Too. I failed. I think you denied mental by like 1 because we got to the point where the entire game I've been trying to stay out of shadows of the warp to cast mental, and it was impossible for me to stay out of shadows. So I cast and I roll like an 8, which becomes a 7, and then Tyler rolls an 8 to deny. And it's like if I'd killed this one warrior that he -1 damage in the previous turn, I wouldn't have been shadows, and I would have got the mental.
Yeah.
And won.
I made the classic mistake that I keep making in this game, where on turn 1 I left Deathy in front of my Psychers instead of putting him behind them.
Yeah.
So he's able to get one for free, and then I was able to get some for free at the end as well, because it's much harder when you only have 1 wizard. Yeah. Hilariously, the Tyrant does, you can kind of see it in this picture here, he spends most of the game on top of this wall, like exactly 3 inches from the Tyrant Guard underneath him with other dudes in front of him.
And those Spore Mines are all on the bottom floor in that picture.
Yeah,
Tyler just couldn't fit them down there because big hands. But he left enough room. Yeah.
So that was so Nick ends up pulling it out by 2 here with that last second bomb.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It was actually even closer than we thought.
Yeah.
Because going into the last turn, Tyler thought I had like a 12 on no prisoners.
Yeah.
And he left these Venom Throats out in the open, which he could have overran because he's like, I'm just going to use them to move block because, like, sure. Like, I think you calculated I had a 12 and them dying wouldn't push it too high or anything. I don't know. You said you basically said it wasn't going to matter.
My thought was I don't think like I forgot that the train can't advance and charge, and I was worried about the train advance and shoot, and I was worried about the train advancing up, touching the building, and then shooting the Tyrant Guard behind it.
Gotcha.
Was the concern, but that's not a thing.
Yeah, but it actually was a lot more important because in the last turn I went for this very weird play of trying to get more grudge match points, which didn't work out. And actually, if I'd gone after this one warrior, I was only at 99. I would have gotten a 12 on no prisoners instead of a 10. So. Yeah. So those quick calculations at the end there.
Yeah, things got messy. Anyway, so good job to Nick.
Yeah. More importantly here, I'm sitting around, having a hard time falling asleep that night. And at 1 a.m. as I'm about to fall asleep, I'm like, oh, I forgot about the third part of grudge match. The third part of grudge match is you lose a point for each grudge target still alive. And there's 3 of them still alive. So I actually lose 3 points. And the final score, go over right one more after this. Yeah. The final score is 67-68 me. Now, we talked about this, and I was like, obviously, if I'd caught it earlier, I would have and if we'd caught the no prisoners mistake earlier, I would have just charged the warrior in 1 by 1. But it's like the next day, if you'd calculated your no prisoners correctly, you would have overran them, which means like, it's all this like, we're running back way too much. I made the mistake. This is where the points lie. I lose 3 points. I lose by 1. Right, like, so we get there early real quick, and we're like, "Yo, Justin, sorry to mess up your pairings, but Nick can't read."
Yeah, Justin was such a great TO. Throws up pairings like over dinner. Like everyone knows what's going on. We're all very excited. I'm gonna have to play Lucas in the morning. It's gonna suck. Nick has got do you have Ryan?
Yeah.
So you had that was gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
We're like so excited. And they're oops.
Good to know. Yeah, it's just one of those things. First time I'd ever played. Like that second time I'd ever played it. First time I played this book at a tournament. Read your rules, it's really important. So yeah, and like the mistake's on me. So like the game should go to Tyler. And like if you're playing stuff and making mistakes, like cede it to your opponent.
Yeah, massive props to Nick for taking the most sportsmanly approach there. That's definitely the I definitely would agree with that and advocate for that in the future. And if you find out that your opponent has made a mistake like that, do let them know and give them a chance to do the right thing there, because it's like it was for Nick here. It's almost never out of malice. If they don't have to quintuple check, they probably should have checked again. It's easy to forget stuff like that. Cool. So
yeah,
and so
exciting
start of day 2. I'm 3-0. Nick and Lucas are both 2-1. And we'll see what is going on from here. So round 4, we're playing Secure Missing Artifacts, also known as Prios. And we're going to start off with the Goth Orcs again, but this time getting played into Lucas. We heard about this list already. You don't need to run through it again. It's a bunch of dudes that are going to run at you with Gaskell. How did this game go, Lucas?
Love this picture of Goths, by the way, dude. This is what I picture in my head every time I think of Goths. Just a mean, angry-looking dude with his chopper and his gun. Oh, look at that squig, man. I love orcs so much. So, yeah, this was a case of, I think this guy was a little bit newer to orcs and wasn't as familiar with all the things he needed to do to try to win against Chaos Knights, and it's already an unfavorable matchup because of leadership shenanigans. So, and obviously I knew that his codex like the back of my hand. So, this was not really the closest game, 95-29. And then we also found that, well, never mind. He did keep him pretty low on the Warp Ritual and good bits, which is never really a good sign, given how many Psychers and how many points you can get on that with Gretchen, respectively. But yeah, not really too much going on here. I just kind of shot at him a whole bunch and then eventually moved in for the kill.
Very cool.
I do wonder, real quick, just in general, what do you think is the best way to move the objectives versus orcs as Chaos Knights? This is the move objective mission. I know you like to think about that a lot.
I think that I want to make his. I think he's the aggressor, so I want to make my objective safer, ideally. Gotcha. So I think if he wins the roll off, he should move my side objective toward him, and then I'll move his toward me, which is probably worse for me overall. But yeah, if I go first, I'm definitely making mine safer. The wonderful Gabriel lost the roll off. I made him attacker, so I would get to place the first piece of terrain, but he would get to move the first objective. And he makes the mistake. You never move your own objective. Don't do that. He took his home objective and scooted it toward the middle, and I'm like, all right, bro. And then I took the 2 in no man's land and moved him directly toward my DZ. Like, it's never a good place to be in terms of the primary game.
Yeah, we should put that on a shirt. It'll say, on Mission 33, secure missing artifacts, also known as priority targets. You should not move your home field objective first. Yeah. Instead, move one of the midfield ones either toward you or away from your opponent, depending on the specifics of the matchup.
$50, by the way, for all the text that has to go onto it.
It'll help your opponent out if they bother to read it, but they probably won't.
New merch idea.
Absolutely. I'll start working on it right now.
It's got to have an orc with its head smoking,
But for real, guys, as much as we joke, this is not that complicated of an idea, and it is the easiest thing you can do to improve your game. I know it's only on one mission, but please stop making this mistake. It breaks our hearts every time we see it. And if you tell us that you're a fan of the pod and then you do it against us on a game,
for a moment,
we will call you out on the podcast and
we'll personally insult you and everything you've ever stood for.
Wow, that's harsh, guys.
We will insult you and your mother. It's going to be great.
That's
all right,
harsh. That's too much.
So that's we're kidding. You guys are great, and we love you, and we're glad that you're listening. All right, so good stuff, Lucas, taking down on the orcs. And we'll move on into Nick's round on 4.
Yeah, dude.
Into very much beloved army.
I cannot
which is the Ferryman
lad.
Death Guard. I'll walk through this because I think we all know how this list works pretty well. He's got a pair of Malignant Plague Casters, one of which has Befouling Runoff, one of which has Unstable Sickness. I don't actually know what either of those things do. I don't think it matters.
Doesn't matter.
Cool. He's got 4 squads of 10 Plague Marines with the full loadout, including Meltas. He's got 2 squads of 5 Plague Marines. Again, Meltas over Plasmas. He's got a Biologist Putrefier, or a Plague Surgeon, the Tally Man, and the man himself, the foul Blightspawn with stench vats and vicious death, and Morty with his warlord traits, gift of contagion, testament vitality. For those of y'all who don't know how this army works, it spends 1 CP every turn for the Ferryman stratagem to take the Foul Blightspawn's aura and make it 12 inches instead of 6 inches, and then all the Plague Marines stay within 11 inches of that guy, wholly within 11, so that to get within an inch of them, you're necessarily getting hit by that aura, and that aura says you never count as having charged, so he will get to fight first, and you'll lose access to any of your abilities that proc based on having charged. It also means no fights first, so things like Yanari and
Emperor's
the other army where everyone fights first. Emperor's Children, there you go. Marcus Slanesh. None of that helps.
You can never count as having fought first in the aura.
Yeah. But it's horrible for Tyranids because it means you never get to overrun. It's horrible for all sorts of different things.
It's bad for Quins. You can't use the Harlequin's Brace strat on the charge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't use any charge-based strats.
Yeah, there's lots of nonsense in there. It's a thing, and then there's Mortarion, and this whole thing is quite durable. It's a list that is very well known around the area. I think this is the premier Stephen Trimble list, but this is actually our buddy Colby playing it, and my oh my, does he have an army?
So Colby is also known as the local mech boy in our meta. My man's has fluctuated between 3 to 5 printers at any time. That's probably exaggerated, but he's got a lot of printers. He's the guy that you call when you're like, hey dude, this is out of stock. And he's like, see you tomorrow. So yeah, Colby's a very fun guy to play against. He has this he's an avid Sisters of Battle player. And he does this thing I love where every time Sisters are good, he goes back to playing them. He plays Sisters. And every time Sisters get tanked by something in the meta, he's like, time to go build the list that kills the Sisters killers. And he's like, this is for killing my girls, And so he saw this Plague Marine list that Steve was running. And he was like, you know what, Steve, that's a great list, but I can make it better. And I can 3D print a bunch of cat girl head Death Guard with an anime posed Mortarion to boot. So yeah, it was a real treat to play into. Honestly, his characters too, dedication to his craft. His characters, people complained at Turkey Wars that they were not able to tell what the characters were. They were like, that's just another girl with a cat head. And so he went and bought plastic models of those characters and popped a little 3D printed cat head in there. So it's very obvious to tell which of the characters are now because they all have the right bodies. So great job, Colby. 10 out of 10. Artiste. So this game, we play on this table from hell here. This red Necron table with these giant pieces of breachable terrain, but there's no L's. It's all just squares and rectangles. Those 2 giganto pieces, there's one in my back corner, as you can see, because I put it there so I don't have to deal with it. These are obscuring breachable dense cover. We said ignore the lip because it's so dumb if he has to subtract 2 inches from his move every time he has to go over them because his whole army moves 5 inches. So we just said you could just blast straight through, brother, and we'll just call the thing in the middle solid or something. We'll deal with it when we deal with it. That little trifecta there, it showed on that little triangle I put in the middle, those little tiny pylons. It showed on the mission sheet to deploy them in a triangle. We're 2 inches apart from each other. I don't know, but it's basically a crater. And I won the terrain roll off, as you can see, because I just slammed down a non-obscuring piece in the middle, and I'm like, all right, go next, Colby. Let's go, dude. He goes first, which means he gets to advance his whole army towards me. Secondary-wise, I'm basically just taking kill secondaries. No prisoners isn't bad. He's playing a little bit less wounds than the traditional Trimble 60 Plague Marine lists, however. So I couldn't actually max no prisoners, so I took the Ancestors Are Watching. I also took Assassination because he has 8 characters, and I took Mental Interrogation because he has a bunch of characters, and I can do the funny equal or exceed your leadership, gain a CP. Because gaining CP lets me just pump damage output. And this is the game I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the range stratagems of Votann have, because I got to use them a lot during this game. For those that haven't played into Plague Marines, basically the game plan here is take a tape measure 17 inches away from them, and then stand 17.1 away, and they can't charge you. If they get to go first and get some good advances, the board does shrink pretty quick. But what I was able to do was get 3 judgment on Mortarion, because Colby was only able to mental with Mortarion going first. So that's a judgment for doing an action. I glare at you in my command phase. That's a judgment. And then I shoot you with a bike unit and spend a CP to shine a light on you and give you a judgment. That is the Searchlight stratagem. Might be the best 5-point upgrade in the book. It's just, give a judgment if you hit with a bike. So Morty's at 3, which means forced to hit auto wound. Very strong. And also there's 20 Plague Marines in front of him, which means I'm able to line up these beams and I just go to town. I'm able to take down Morty in my first shooting phase. And there's a combination of strats here that are very strong. One stratagem is the Ymir faction stratagem. It is select a Votann model in your army when it's shooting, select a beam weapon that model is equipped with, and then whenever that beam weapon scores a hit, do a mortal per hit. So you're usually going to see this used on the top beam gun because the top beam gun has 2 shots. But if the enemy unit is wholly outside of 15, every hit scores an additional hit. So you can get up to 4 hits with this gun, which means up to 4 mortals to the original target. And there is another mortal-based stratagem called Core Buster Fire Pattern, which you use in your shooting phase after an enemy unit is successfully hit by a beam weapon from your army. And then until the end of that phase, every single time the enemy unit is hit by a beam weapon from your Votann army, on a 4-up, they take a mortal to a cap of 6. And the wagons have 8 little beam shots each, and they have like 2 big beams up top, which can explode to 4 hits. So that's a total of, 16, it's 22, 24 like beam shots. So it's very easily just you hit the 6 wound cap. So that's just 10 mortals right there. In addition to all the 4 damage shots and 2 damage shots. And what ended up happening was I shot him. Colby made, I think I got 7 wounds through with the big 4 damage beam. He made all of the saves on the 4 damage beams. And Morty was basically left on 3 at the end. And I'm like, time to shoot the Hearthkin. And these guys wounding on forced to hit auto wound. I'm like 19 wounds, 12 wounds, 16 wounds. And Morty just fails a bunch of 3-ups and dies. I wasn't able to kill the 20 Plague Marines in between. Turns out the little beams aren't actually that amazing into them. -1 damage kind of messes with Votann a bit. It's AP2 damage too. So it's they're saving on 4s and they it takes 2 to kill one. And he also has that 6-inch aura of 6-up Feel No Pain from the Plague Surgeon. But this is an army that really can't avoid the beams super well, especially with Mortarion. I know I played against Steve on TTS where he's tried to spread out the Plague Marine squads more and he was able to avoid the beams fairly well. But if you're just playing this army the traditional way that people play it, which is jam it all towards you, you're going to get beamed, which is not great. So Colby gets an early 12, but from that point onwards, I'm just able to push him backwards. The Berserks are able to do a ton of work. And by turn 4, he's just kind of playing I'm just going to back up and score my priority while you come here and kill my characters. Winning the train roll-off, very important here. Just let me turn the middle into a killing ground. And not really a lot he could have done to threaten me. So I think he played it as best he could, which was just jam stuff for me. Hope that I whiffed.
All right. Yeah, very nice. I know that Colby has been talking about how Mortarion is probably exiting this list right around now, and you got to switch to Abaddon with the advent of things like Votann and now Guard.
Yeah.
So
downside to that is you can't take stench vats in some metas because there's a little bit of a conflict over how the Nephilim relic stratagem works.
Yeah.
So
lucky him. Jason lets it happen, and FLG lets it happen, and that's everyone that matters around here. Cool. So moving on over, I am playing Indar Boy Darby. Love this guy, absolute legend of a human being. Resident expert Thousand Sons player Lucas Troller. You want to walk us through this cast list?
Yeah, man. It's a Time Battalion of Thousand Sons with a Zinch Demons Patrol. So this is the tried and true Terminators plus Flamers build. He's got Araman with Warp Time and 2 of the damage spells. We got an Exalted Sork with the heal and +1 to hit. 3 squads of Rubik's, rather. 2 with
He is
Flamer.
Cult of Time, by the way. I don't know if that got written anywhere here. He is not Cult of Duplicity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's
so he's the healing cult. What's up?
It's up there at the top, yeah. Time Thousand Sons.
3 squads of 5 Rubrics, 2 with Glamour, 1 with Gaze of Hate, 10 Zangors, 10 Terminators with 2 missile racks and a Gatler cannon, 2 squads of 5 Terminators with a missile rack. We got a patrol with a Herald on foot, 10 blue horrors, 2 squads of 6 flamethrower Rhinos for 2
I think
starting
that's
CP.
Herald on disc.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, Herald on disc. But yeah, 10 blues, 2 of 6 flamers. That's all he's got. All right, cool. Yeah, so this is kind of some of the newer hotness. I mean, anything plus flamers is kind of hot for Chaos right now, but this in particular has been doing making the rounds. Our boy, not our boy. Not going to say anything nice about that guy. A certain someone took this an event list somewhat similar to this to GW and did fairly well with it. Anyway, yeah. So this, if there was ever a doubt in your mind that the Defender roll-off is incredibly overpowered, man, this was awful. I win the Defender roll-off. I choose to be Defender, and then Darby does the unthinkable. And grabs his home field objective and yanks it toward himself. And I say, okay, that's
I'd love
fine.
to see that, dude.
So I'll make mine super safe and pull yours way out into the open. And the thing you got to remember about the way that this works now is because the terrain line is the funky diagonal, right? That's like down between the DZs. What that means is that neither of our... it means that my priority objective is now so deep in my DZ that he can't block it, and his is now so far open that he can't really even save it, except with some of these solid walls that he's got there. So then with Defender, I don't even care about the middle. I check a pre-measure to make sure it all works, and I slam this forest down on his what is going to be his priority objective, right next to my deployment zone, and say that's not going to happen. And then the rest of the stuff piles up. Secondaries wise, I'm taking no prisoner. He's taking no prisoners, mutate landscapes, and RND, which is a choice. I'm taking banners, interrogate, and no prisoners. Interrogate is also a choice, but I think it's honestly going to be fine because I can play some careful stuff. I obviously don't want his characters using the 3d6 to 9 nonsense, but I can probably line this up that it'll be all right, and I'm going to try to burn through his CP pretty quickly anyway, so it's not the absolute end of the world, especially because this game is going to be such a... I can tell going in there's going to be a pretty big primary disparity here, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, so who goes first? I go first. I spawn a bunch of mines, and I do this really cute play that I've been wanting to do for a while, where Deathy, because he's got Alien Cunning, he can advance and act, advances out to the middle. Gabe, he doesn't have the crystal, and he doesn't. He's not Cult of Duplicity, so he has no teleports in this army. So Deathy runs out to the center, slams a banner down, and then uses Invisible Hunter at the end of the turn to leave. So I put a banner in the center objective with nothing on it. So I say, hey, you don't have anything to charge into, and you don't have anything to actually do damage against. But if you don't go stand on the center objective right now, which is a death sentence, I'm just going to score more banner points than you're willing to let me have. And that's a hilarious move. I love it so much. I also, that's all I do. And he says, cool. That's fine. I'm just going to leave the center objective alone, and I'm also basically going to sit back because I'm afraid of being too aggressive and getting punished. Don't challenge me to a staring contest, guys. He continues for a little while running stuff over to that bottom objective, and I'm like, all right, well, this is just the Salamanders game all over again. I'm going to throw Tyrant Guard and a Hive Tyrant at that objective, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. Here's what sucks about this army and to me. All of the guns here are AP2. T-Sun's Warp Bolters are AP2. Flamers of Zinch are AP2. Obviously, he can do a bunch of Mortal Wounds with Ahriman once he gets him into the Danger Zone. He's in the Danger Zone then. But, we can... It's AP2. My Tyrant Guard are all 2-up saves plus 2 in cover. So they're all sitting at 0-up saves over there, just vibing, taking 2-ups against his entire army. And there's not much to be done here. He sits back. He doesn't play quite aggressively enough. The final score of this game ends up being 89-61. It was a kind of an unfortunate matchup that I don't think he ended up getting to execute on quite well. So not necessarily the hardest. I definitely got off easy when it comes to round 4s across the three of us. Moving on to round 5, we're playing Conversion, which is the other quarters. This is the one where it's just 2 for holding a middle objective, 4 more for flipping your opponents, -1 for losing your backfield, and don't you lose your Warlord, buddy, or you're in trouble. And we're going to start off with... Nick playing into Death Guard again. This time piloted by I was about to say the late great. He's very much alive. The wonderful Jason Bird, who TOs most of the events that we love to talk about so much. Very similar idea, but he's got some Nurgle demons in there because Jason, like me, is playing a worse army to fight for a tiny trophy that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, which is Best in Faction Nurgle. So he's got the Plague Caster, he's got Typhus, he's got 40 Plague Marines, 20 Poxies, 3 Death Shroud, a Putrefier, the Blightspawn, as before, the Plague Surgeon, the Tallyman, and then he's got this little Nurgle patrol of demons with a Bile Piper, 10 Plague Bearers, and 2 squads of 3 Nurglings, which basically takes up them and the Death Shroud, basically subbing for Mortarion, which I don't know that it's necessarily worse, but it's definitely different, and ends up being similar kind of vibes. So walk us through, did you not get a picture?
I sadly forgot to take a picture. Jason and I were kind of shit-talking each other at the start of the game, and then we just started playing. Gotcha. Our board, though...
Talk about Nurgle round 2, Nick.
Yeah, dude, let me set a scene for you. Our board here, we're playing on like a modified airport table. So that means that we get some of the like airport elves, which are nice, and then they slam down the big airport square in the middle of the board, which is annoying, because this piece has... One side of it has a staircase, which means it's completely blocked off. 2 sides have these like windows with slats at like kind of like opposite mirroring each other, and then one side has like full windows with slats. And Jason and I both look at that and we go, so one of us could rotate at 90 and then move it. And I know that if he wins the terrain roll off, he's rotating at 90, so the side with no windows is facing me, and he's positioning it along the thing in such a way so he can hang out inside of it and be on the middle objective, which is not good for me. And if I win the terrain roll off, I will rotate it so that there's windows facing both sides, and then push it in such a way that you can't hold the objective from inside. It is stupid how much this matters. Anyways, I won the terrain roll off, and that's a bummer. So I do exactly that. He gets one more piece of terrain at least for being the attacker. That was kind of nice on this board, which did let him set up these, like, he was pretty good at like staggering his terrain in such a way that it was like annoying for me to cut angles and like beam him. So like kudos to you, Jason. That was pretty good. I mean, really good. He had stuff alive till like round 4. I took mental. It worked pretty well into Colby. He does have 2 more psychers. No, Colby had 2 psychers. He has less characters, right? But I was confident.
And like those characters don't have to crash the way that Morty has to crash.
Exactly. But I was confident I could get a 12 or 15 on it. And again, I was worried about Warp Ritual because like hanging out in the middle, he can play a slow game and just kill the Grimnir. I took banners, which was a mistake. I keep taking on these corners missions when I can't get it. I was just like, yeah, I killed those Plague Marines last game really quick. I'll do it this game and like get, 12 on it. No, not smart. Should have taken Assassinate. The other thing too about Jason as opposed to Colby, this is like kind of knowing how players play. Colby and Steve both play the Plague Marine list very, very aggressively, where they take all their characters, put them behind all their Plague Marines, and just march the whole army towards you. Bird plays a lot more defensively, where he marches the Plague Marines out and he has the Blightspawn in, but all the other characters kind of hang out. And he is not afraid of, if you take Assassinate, walking his characters like away. Which, sure, like maybe that would have been fine because like, hey, you're not playing with them. But like the Blightspawn doesn't really need to be that close. He needs to just be within 11, right? Like he can kind of just hang out back there in like a big clump. But I should have taken Assassinate, and now I know that. I did take no prisoners because he does have a lot more wounds with the additional Death Shroud, as well as the Plague Bearers and the Nurglings. Jason opted for Fleeing Vectors, which is like the weird Death Guard one that's like kill stuff with plague weapons and then get them spooked so they run. And it can rack up points quite a bit. Not that great of a choice to me, though, because I have a relatively low model count army. Spread the Sickness, which, great call. It's like, it's an 11, basically. And Despoiled Ground, which I think was just him being like, I've never played in a Votan. I hope I can outlast you. And if I do, I get some points. And if I don't, then I know not to take this anymore. I got to go first, which actually wasn't great. I wanted to go second to get like a 12 on primary / the banners at the end / like looking at how he deployed his terrain and how he deployed his army. I wasn't really shooting anything turn 1. So I got some shots here and there, got some beams. It was basically me like cutting these like long angles to get like a big, like the big 4 damage beam and killing like 3 Plague Marines from each squad and like pew pew beams. He moved up. He kind of split up his army because he's like, I don't want to get beamed by you. So he had like a squad up here in the corner waiting to like crash into the middle if I were moved in the middle. He had like a squad down here that was basically locking down his like home, like his objective closer to him. And they had 2 squads in the middle that were like, we're gonna like deathball the middle if you ever like full commit. So I was fine playing the edges for a bit, especially because he had like the Plague Bearers and the Death Shroud in reserves. So once those guys came down, I killed them and then like came in. What really was the nail that like ended the game was turn 4. I had a squad of 5 Berserks going into like the Death Shroud and a squad of 5 Berserks going into his like bottom objective here with like the remnants of the Plague Marine squad he had down there. And I got to charge with one of them to the Death Shroud. I used the Chthonian Berserk strat to reroll hits and melee. Bonk. By Death Shroud. And then the next squad walked up to the squad of 5 Plague Marines. He interrupted, threw some good saves on my own part. He only killed 2 of them. They fought on death, killed like 1.5 Plague Marines. And then the remaining 3, I'm like, hey, dude, you got a Judgment token on you. So I'm going to use my other reroll hit strat because you have a Judgment token on you. Which, by the way, this strat is not core locked. Anything can do it. I forgot to mention in the game against Colby. The land trains can do it. That's why I was able to like take down Morty so well. That's why those mortal strats are so good with hits because you're rerolling hits. And Jason was like, wait, you already used that strat. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Jason. I have 2 reroll hit strats. One's tied to Berserks and one's tied to Judgment. And at that point, he said, all right, you have beaten me. Let's just tally up the rest of the points. So, yeah, Berserk's very good when they get to do the thing they want to do. Continue to impress me. And ends the game with an 88-48 win for the Votan. I'm going to stop taking banners on corner missions. So that's a good thing to learn.
Very nice. Yeah. He shot the Plague
Oh,
Marines.
there was one moment, I got to talk about this, that was very dumb, where he had a squad of... This was kind of a game where I got the Judgment. Like, the Judgment was starting to click for me as the tournament went on. And it kind of got to this cycle of Plague Marines come in, kill a unit in the middle, get a Judgment. Then they're on an objective, get a Judgment. My call looks at them, get a Judgment. Cool. Now your guys are at 3 Judgment instantly. And I just ripped them apart because my whole army gets 4 set auto wound, which is really good into big things like Plague Marines. So I like killed that Plague Marine squad, and he had all of his characters sitting in a box, like lined up. And I'm like, oh, you're not Lookout Cert anymore. I'm going to shoot Typhus, who's in the back of your character blob. And Jason was like, interesting. Like, I hadn't planned this out. I was like lining up the shots here, and I look there, and I'm like, okay, and we roll it, and the one land train just kills all of his characters in like one shot.
Oh,
I was like,
disgusting.
no, dude. And that's like, I should have taken Assassinate. That's like 12 points. That's like 15 points.
Rough, dude.
You should get a yellow card for that. Oh, my God.
True.
That's just
gross,
out of that. Oh, that's so.
When
bad.
it happens, it happens. It's not good.
God,
It's not good.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
Mom, get the camera. Colette.
All right.
Playing Call of Duty, dude.
All right, so Nick picks up the 88-48 win there, and you want to do my game next or yours next, Lucas?
I think we why don't we just talk at the same time? I'm sure that won't be distracting.
All right.
So I end 4-1. We got Tyler who's 4-0 and Lucas is 3-1. And Tyler gets the pair down into Lucas. Good luck, boys.
There are 3 undefeateds here, to be clear. There's Ryan Lynn, who is also playing Forces, but a very mortal heavy Forces that I am not scared of. Like, it's a Forces mirror match. I know what to do there. Our boy Max, who is playing a bunch of demons that I will do unsavory, unspeakable things to. And there's me. And I'm like, either of those guys, I'm going to crump them, and like I'm in position to win this tournament. Or I'll get a pair down, play some guy who's 3-1. Almost no one at this event is like, oh man, like what am I going to do about it? Like there's a lot of 3-1s that I could get because as far as we can tell, it's basically random. Where like I'm just going to pound them down and hopefully I can pull like this. I'll probably end up in second. That's fine. Like totally good options. And no, I get the worst possible matchup. I think there was no one at this event that I was more scared of playing into than Lucas.
Dread.
I think too it was funny. The tiebreaker was battle points when you got paired down or something. Because we looked at it. I had the most battle points of the 3-1s, and you couldn't play me because you'd already beaten me. And Lucas had the second most. So he just gets swung down.
Leave me alone. All right, so Lucas and I have played this matchup a number of times in a number of different ways. When I have played mono Nids, when I played Lennon's Kraken list into him, I beat him. When he played with his Big Knight into my Forces, he beat me. Now this is him with the Dawn, which is what the Kraken beat, into the Forces, which is what he beat. So like, we're not entirely sure how this one's going to go. And I have evolved a little bit in my playstyle here. So we're going to try something a little bit different. The table we get is really interesting. It's field-based.
This is a fun table.
I quite like this. So there's two sets of forests. There's the grassy forests and the rocky forests. The rocky forests are obscuring. The grassy forests are not.
Yep.
And then we have those classic FLG foam hills. And then I win the defender roll off and take this L. He takes this box. I guess I never really decided whether that was the right call or not to take the L.
You definitely
instead
wanted
of
the
box.
you definitely wanted the L.
You think so?
Yeah, to hide behind.
I don't know. Anyway, so I take the L. And as defender, I have to make the tough choice here of do I want to try to do something silly in the center or do I just make my home field safe? I go for the home field safe, partially because there's really nothing I could do to make the center particularly safe, and also because he's going to be swamping it anyway. This is the thing that I think I've kind of learned. The last time we played this and he beat me, I made the center safe, and it just doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if it's safe if he puts 3 obsec dogs there. What am I going to do? So I think this is the right call. So I make that safe, and then I also set up this box so that I can block off his safe-ish objective and hold that from the inside of the box, which whether or not I can avoid getting charged will depend on how many dudes are left in there, but the bigger deal is I can be in cover while holding his objective, which would be very nice. And what I've realized over my games is that this combo of attacking your opponent's safe flank objective with the Tyrant and the Tyrant Guard is really good. And Lucas in particular might have some issues dealing with that nonsense, so that's what we go for here. I'll walk through my thought process and deployment, then we'll flip it over to Lucas's. The box is there, the L is there, so the Tyrant Guard and the Tyrant are going to try to run down there. I'm going to send Deathy, as always, up to the top. I send 5 Tyrant Guard with him as well, because I figured Deathy, and then I'm going to put all my Spore Mines up there. Deathy and a pile of mines probably isn't quite enough to deter Lucas, but if I put a pile of T-Guard over there as well, that might be enough. And then there's some Warriors in there to get some OBSEC in there once Deathy either goes down or gets involved in the center objective or whatnot. And then the Sporocysts and the Biovores are obviously parked all the way back, as are the Venoms and the last squad of Warriors and the Neuro. So the idea is that I'm going to try to hyperextend into both directions, because there's a bunch of crates and stuff. He's going to have trouble getting to my home field, and then I'll brawl with him in the middle, and hopefully I can actually hold his primary somewhat down doing that, because the reason Lucas seems to always beat me is because of primary, right? Our secondaries are fine, they're whatever. But the primary is where he gets me. So my hope is that if I can do this, I'll be able to punish that a little bit. What are your thoughts going into this game, Lucas?
Yeah, I also noticed that I usually beat you on primary, so I definitely wanted to try to set that up. And the best way to do that is to make sure the middle of the board is nice and open, right? One of the weaknesses of Tyler's list is, it has some GSC OBSEC, but the Tyranid OBSEC is 10 Gargoyles that die in 2 seconds, and then 2 squads of 3 Warriors that also kind of die pretty quickly. So my dogs obviously out primary that pretty substantially. And Deathly, bro, that's true. So my dogs obviously out OBSEC that pretty substantially. So my goal is to get a bunch of 8s and 12s myself, and then give Tyler a bunch of 8s, and then on a couple key turns give him a 4. And then as long as our secondaries are roughly parity, which they should be, because he's going to do well on big game and rod, and he's going to get some amount of warp ritual. And I'm going to do well on Ruthless and No Prisoners, and I'm going to get some amount of some other secondary that I'm going to pick. It's either going to be Storm of Darkness or something kill-related. Just as long as the middle of the board is nice and open for me to run in and exploit. So, I was just slamming down some crates, some forests in the middle to make sure that you weren't going to have nice places to hide behind. And just be ready to move out and take the fight to you on turns 2 through 4. That's really where I want to be doing most of my damage. The third secondary I did end up deciding on was Fitting Challenge. This is a Chaos Knight secondary where you get a max of 6 points per turn on it, and you get a number of points for killing the enemy's 3 most expensive units. On turn 1, you get 6 for killing a unit. On turn 2, you get 5. On turn 3, you get 4. On turn 4, you get 3, and then on turn 5, you get 2. So you start at 6, and you go down by 1 every turn, and it caps at 6. So on turn 1, Tyler goes first and goes for this play where he's putting his Hive Tyrant out, and his 3 most expensive units are the Tyrant and the Guard. So he puts his unit out there with the Tyrant behind, and move blocks me with these Raveners. But the great reality is that because I've created so much open space in the midfield, I can still move around these Raveners on the right side of the screen and on the left as well to make sure I have plenty of shots into those Tyrant Guard.
My thought process on the Ravener move block here, my hope is I've got 3 Tyrant Guard here that are in cover. They're all -1 to hit. That makes them very tanky against chain cannons. You've only got 3 guys with Melta. We'll see how the Meltas do. They're not a lot of shots. But if you're able to get Stalkers to run up and punch the Tyrant Guard, they die immediately.
Yes.
And if there are not if there's nothing stopping that from happening, I think it's a totally reasonable move that you could like send 2 guys over and one of them hits that charge, and that is just such bad news bears that I figured the Raveners take a dog down and then prevent that from happening. That's what the move block is there for, more than actually changing where your models end up at the end of the turn. Oh, I'm not sure. I think we're back. I don't know. I can hear you all now. So that was the idea.
Wi-Fi keeps cutting in and out. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. Okay.
Cool. The general idea here is that you can see, obviously I've mentioned many times now the amount of open space I'm able to create in the middle. The idea is if I go first, I can this was after my turn 1 movement, but if I had gone first, I would have swamped the upper left objective with 4 or 5 dogs just before Tyler gets any mines there, put a bunch of chain cannons in the area and say, if you try to build this up as a strong flank, I'm going to shoot your mines and then come punch you, because I can definitely win the melee brawl for that objective despite Death Leaper. If I go second, I know he's going to flood that area with mines, which he did, which was really smart. So then I decided to pivot and play my 3 safe objectives, especially because he gave me all these things to shoot at. I figure I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to get a good position. I'm going to do all the damage I can. And now I'm going to play these 3 objectives and make you come to me. I figure our secondaries are on parity enough that I can hopefully beat you on the primary if I just chill on those 3 objectives. Because at the end of the day, you don't really have any OPSEC on the middle objective.
Yeah, no. My plan to deal with the middle objective is to kill whatever you put on it. That's about as much as I can do. Maybe I can send the Gargs in for a turn. Maybe I send Deathy in later to like contest you off of it. But yeah, I'm hoping to play for the 3 in the L pattern and then try to do silly stuff in the corner in the middle and corner.
Unfortunately, your early aggressive gambit does not pay off.
Yeah.
What ends up happening, we've been trying to encourage Tyler to play more aggressively, and he's trying a lot of new stuff out, which is really cool. And unfortunately, it just did not work out this game. I shot the Raveners down a little bit so the Fought on Death was less enticing, and then what I did was just started putting guns into the Tyrant Guard. The Meltas actually whiffed. The Meltas did nothing at all, did not even cause a wound. Or so I think it caused some wounds, but you made the 4-up armors. But then the chain cannons they were tearing through that armor. I don't know how, but you were rolling way too many ones. And I managed.
I also didn't put Catalyst on them. I tried to, and then I failed with the Tyrant instead of having the Neurothrope cast it, either spending a CP or just trusting something
Yeah, that was big.
Yeah. That
was quite big. And not having the Tyrant Guard have Catalyst means that every save that goes through just, wounds a dude. And as soon as those 3 guys that in cover are dead, the other 2 drop like flies because they're also no longer -1 to hit from the Venoms. And I did 6's Explode with all Armigers against them, which is a really great strat that I don't see people playing Knights use enough. And as soon as those 3 guys in cover were dead, the last 2 just evaporated. Like the 1 Stalker basically killed them.
There was 1 guy left at the end of the shooting phase.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I had 1 guy left on 3, and then I rotated into Terror Shades range of him and zapped him.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got him with the Terror Shades. Again, Catalyst would have helped out a ton against that, but yeah, you barely take him down, but he does, and that's not only does that mean that my Tyrant is now a million miles away from the only Tyrant Guard on the table, but it also means that's 6 points for you on your frickin' secondary because you kill a big unit on turn 1.
Yep, got a fitting challenge on turn 1, which is super big. I also got the tempo momentum because you did kill 1 dog and he did explode for a bunch of damage. But at this point, I've killed your Raveners and a squad of Tyrant Guard, and you've killed 1 doggy. So I'm definitely at the tempo advantage. You also can no longer push my exposed flank because the Tyrant, he can definitely still go for overrun plays, but there's no Tyrant Guard over there. So if he goes and kills the Executioner, that sucks for me, but then I'm going to kill his Tyrant next turn, and then the game is probably over.
I can't make that trade.
Yep.
So I start pulling rabbits out of my ass. Here's the other thing to understand about this mission that I think, once I conceptualized this, I had a better game plan for what to do. The primary disparity, once Lucas pivots to playing his safe 3, is basically not a thing. Right? If we both hold our home 2 objectives, I don't care if he gets a 12 every single turn, because I'm getting a 42 on primary if I can hold those 2 safely. Right?
That's right.
This is the thing that I didn't think about in my game into Marshall, which is why things got wacky in the first place, because I wasn't properly conceptualizing this mission and others like it. If you can hold your 2, that's a 42, because it's 32 for 4 times 8, 2 times 5 is 10. 32 points. And then if I flip his home field objective once, which that's a thing that I love to do, if I can pull that off, that's a 45. Hard stop. So then it just comes down to secondaries, and like we said, I have slightly better secondaries than Lucas does, because RND is better than it's actually very tight, but I basically have 3 very good 12 pluses. I mean, I got 12, 12, 14. You end up with 15, 14, 8 for that fitting challenge. The fitting challenge, again, and if it doesn't happen turn 1, that's 1 or 2 points off again. Mm-hmm. My plan probably from the start should have been hold the 2 strongholds and get all my secondary points in hindsight, but I wanted to try that. But I'm glad that I tried this because it was really interesting. So to get out of this nonsense situation, we started doing clever shit. Lucas only, as you can see here, I think no, I just gave you the 12. It doesn't matter. The Flyrant from this position advances to the middle, gets Onslaught chained onto her, casts Warp Ritual. Do you deny it that turn? No, you don't deny it. I don't remember if you chose not to or what happened there. Gets Warp Ritual off, goes in, beats a dog to death, and then overruns to this position where you can see her here, where she ends up for a lot of the game, behind the wall, in and amongst the Tyrant Guard. So, she has crossed the entire freaking table, moving, almost over 40 inches in a single turn to get back into complete safety, which was really cute. But at the end of the day, Lucas is just going to keep advancing and continuing to shoot stuff.
Yeah, and the problem is that assumption of, I hold my 8 and get 2 points on tertiary every turn. I mean, I can't prevent the tertiary because Tyler has agency over that at the end of his turn. But I can just walk 2 dogs onto any of his objectives, or even 1 dog onto his home field at any particular point in time and just take 4 points away from him. So when turn 3 and 4 started rolling around and he really got down to basically just, I have a bunch of support pieces in the Tyrant, I was like, well, here's a half-health dog that just denied 4 primary points. Yeah, so dogs are definitely great for that, and took advantage of the lack of OBSEC.
I also then, on that turn 2, I got to keep doing clever stuff. I drop in my drill squad in the backfield, and I've got tunnel networks in the tank, so the -2 for the forest doesn't matter, but I fail my dread check, which is a massive bummer, because if I can grab that extra 4 points would have helped out a lot. Denying you primary isn't a thing this game, it doesn't matter, but every bit of tertiary that I can get my hands on would be real nice.
Also would have killed a dog that shot every turn of the game and hung around.
Exactly. So that was a massive bummer, but I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know what else that squad is supposed to do, right? Because
they just come in and hope they don't roll the 50% dread check fail.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate coin flip, but it's the reality of the matchup.
Yep.
So yeah, Lucas does eventually get down to my objective. We do a couple more clever things. I mean lucky. My Neurothrope super smites back to back and kills a war dog on his own. That dude has a war dog head on his base for a reason. He does not like those motherfuckers.
Loves killing doggies.
But that was nice. Mines do mine things, and I kill a bunch of stuff. Oh, there's the other thing, is that on turn 3, from this position, you can see Abaddon is in the middle there, right next to that crate. The Tyrant comes in, lands on that crate outside of an inch of the Dawn, goes in to charge the Dawn, 3 mortals on the charge, and then Reaper to ignore the phase cap, kills the Dawn, and then gets, after casting Warp Ritual again, and gets out of there. I think Lucas failed his 4-up for the auto-deny that time, and now Lucas is out of denies, so my last Warp Ritual is free. So at the end of the day, this game, the scoring on this is really interesting. Lucas ends up with, 29, 37 on secondaries, while I end up with 38. So I beat him by a point on secondaries, but he's got me by a full 15 on primary, because I got 0 on top 5, which is not exactly what you want to do, and a 4 on top 4. So yeah, very very cool stuff. Really great game. Lots of interesting back and forth. Fun new way to try to play the army that I'm looking forward to doing more of in the future, and I'm excited to play this matchup some more maybe. But yeah, Lucas he gets the spoil, knocks me out, and there's only one undefeated player at the end of the day. Congratulations to Ryan Lynn, who ends up winning the event with a different Forces of the Hive Mind army, which is personally insulting, but that's how the matchups ended up shaking out. Sweet. So at the end of the day, as Nick actually called night one, all three of us end up 4-1 in various positions in the top 8. Nick, you want to throw out some quick shout outs here?
Yeah. Great game, guys. It was great listening to your recap there. Actually, I really hadn't heard too much about that game yet, so it's cool getting the breakdown. I want to give some shout outs to like some members of our local community that did really well at the event. First off, we got 2 members of our Best in Tabletop Discord. Recent newcomer Donald Plummer, who I had the pleasure of playing at Harbor Heresy back in September. We managed to dodge each other at Turkey Wars and at Atomic City, but he has been at all these big events I've been to. He was the winner of Best Painted, which we'll show some pictures on the next slide here in a second. He has a fabulous looking just like Tau army that pops. So congrats, Donald. Well deserved. He also had a fantastic finish, going 4-1, I think only losing to Max. So, who was the eventual top table placing, second place at the tournament. Next up, Danny McDevitt, also a member of the Best in Tabletop Discord. You can also catch him on, Grim After Dark Mondays on FLG. So great coaching services too. So Danny was the winner of Best Sport, which is great to see. And then 2 of our like local, just like players that we like see at all the tournaments, and also just like 2 of our local like friends and practice partners. Like I've driven down to Ryan's house, like, and like practiced with him before, like when Votan first came out. Ryan is also the second man behind the chair when Colby's printers are down to, help supply everything the Pacific Northwest needs. Ryan Lynn, winner of the Best General, which was awesome. I think this is his second tournament like win in 9th edition. His first one was the Boise Cup or something in 2020.
You won that with AdMech, is that right?
2021? Yeah, I won with AdMech.
Yeah.
So congrats, Ryan. Another win there. And then Max, this was his highest placing ever at a GT, getting second place and also like getting to top table. I think previously his highest placing was Slaneshmus in 2019 in 8th edition, which he went 5-0 with Imperial Fist. So, hey, dude, nice job. It's good to see you at those top tables, and I hope we get to play next time. So, yeah.
Very nice. Cool beans. We got some pictures here of that beautiful Tau army painted by our boy Donald.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah, you can go check it out on his Facebook. This is just pulled right from there as well. You can just look him up. And I mean, if you have the pleasure of seeing at an event, go talk to him about it. I'm sure he'd love to talk all about it. I know I'm going to have to go talk to him about making some display boards. So
Certainly not going to be pleasurable to be shot by it, though.
Wow. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Scary list,
Very
man.
cool.
Right. Yeah, and I know we already shouted out Justin and everything, but again, like great event. I saw here we had in the chat as well. We had Cryptic Metagaming, the guys running the stream at the event. I mean, the event was just super fun. I think that those listening can tell we had a good time.
Oh my god. How have we not mentioned the prize support?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude. That was like, I mean, there were a lot of great things about this event, but that was particularly awesome.
I mean, that was the one that got us to like start, like we had to talk our way onto the wait list to eventually get into this event. And I mean, that was the thing that got us in the door in the first place.
First place got like $600?
$600 cold hard cash, not store
and
credit.
Max in second
cash.
place got $400 dues as well.
Yep.
$400.
And then I think first place painting gets like 400. Second got like 200 or something. And then all the best sports, there were 2 best sports, they got 100 each or something.
Yeah, it was a ton.
And also just like they were giving away stuff throughout the event.
Yeah, I got a cool
raffles and
raffle. It was
stuff?
sick.
Yeah.
What did you win?
I won a
Oh,
bunch
you got
of like,
the board game stuff.
yeah,
right?
like
the ancient
Egypt
Egypt
D&D
stuff.
minis, dude. Or like Egyptian mythology D&D minis.
Yeah.
It just makes people
Very
excited too when like, you aren't just giving away prizes for like the 2 best in like every category sort of thing.
It's fun to get to randomly win stuff.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
also makes people hyped to show up because I think the money was a portion of the entry fee was turned around and given as prizes. So
Yeah, it was all fractionalized. The more people show up, the better.
Probably
the price support
discourages
is.
dropping, which is great. I don't think anyone dropped. I think it was like after like we ran, like we had 41 people, and I think one person had to drop because like a medical emergency.
Colby had,
But
had a situation, but yeah,
yeah.
So this, I mean, I think we've talked to death how awesome this event was. A couple things that we're hoping to see addressed in the future, but like this dude Justin is super receptive to feedback, and I have full faith. I think we talked about this a bunch earlier, and this could be a whole episode discussion another time. But I think we settled on our personal recommendation for how to do pairings and placings. Pairings go win path random, and then placings go win path, and then strength of schedule.
Yeah,
we totally love kicking battle points to the curb, but win path should probably be worth a little bit more than strength of schedule is at the end of the day.
Yeah, because what is it? There were a few 4-1s. I ended up in like 8th place randomly, which I felt was like a little strange because it was like, oh, I guess I played the easiest people, but it's like kind of outside of my control. But also the battle points isn't a perfect solution either, because if we go off battle points, I had the most battle points out of 4-1, which means I get second, which is BS that I knock Max out of that. Yeah. He definitely deserves second for getting to top table. Yeah. So
at the end of the day, like your matchups are out of your control, and your matchups tend to determine your tiebreakers either way.
Yeah.
Right. So there's not going to be a perfect system there, but yeah. So I dropped down. I go 4-0, make it to round 5, drop down to 6th. Not my favorite situation, but like that's kind of how it goes. Someone's always going to end up feeling like they ended up in a bad place. And honestly, I don't disagree with any of these placings. They seem pretty good for the top 5 or 6. It does seem kind of weird that Nick ends all the way down in 8th, but I mean, a whole bunch of people here have a whole bunch of points.
Yeah,
we may do.
I'm just glad that Max got second when he lost on top.
That's the big thing.
100%.
That shit, it always annoys me when that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, honestly, if like as long as we're getting that, I think we're like on the right path.
Yeah, so good stuff there. Reflections on armies and stuff. Nick, this is your first weekend taking out full no holds barred Votann. How do you feel about him, and do you think you'll be continuing to play him in the future?
Dude, they're fun. I mean, it's refreshing. Like Necrons can definitely kill stuff, but like it's like you're kind of like laying a trap army. You're kind of like, hey, come here and stop my scoring machine, and then I'll leap on you, you know. Whereas Votann are like, I'm gonna drive out at you, and you know. But it doesn't feel as like full in like no holds barred commit as like Freebooters was. Freebooters was like you're sweating for the first 2 turns, like, oh god, I hope I kill you before my damage goes away, you know. Or like even Quinn's was kind of like, okay, I have to commit everything. And Votann, like, I think the strongest strategy is kind of committing everything, is what I'm realizing. But like, it feels nice to have like a unit of like just dudes that are like kind of tanky. Like my dudes can like take a shot, like just like waltz forward and be like, yeah, what's up? We're like taking hits. We're not scared, you know. The what's the like way they play is fun too. Like I know that Judgment is an interesting mechanic for sure. But once you like get like the Judgment train rolling and like the long lists and like setting up your call to like look at dudes and everything and like fling it around to set up for a charge, it feels really fun when it works. I'm gonna keep playing them. I think I'm gonna play them at Slanesh, which was in 2 weeks. It's either that or Necrons. But I'd love to get more practice before LVO so I can decide which one to bring to LVO. They're also a lot easier to transport than Necrons. I'll tell you that much. They're tiny and they fit in like one case, which is great. And nothing's tall enough. The king is a nightmare to transport. So that alone might make me want to go play them. But yeah, definitely still got a lot to learn, which is the best part. I love playing games and like learning stuff at the end of them. So
very cool. And then Lucas, you've kind of YOLO'd over to Dog Walker, I know, and it's a bit of a contentious list. I know we have some people who think that it's not the move, and some people who think it's the obvious move. How are you feeling about that list, the State of Chaos Knights, and the potentiality of something a bit greener?
Yeah, had a lot of fun playing Dog Walker. I definitely see why some folks don't enjoy it. It can just, I mean, Chaos Knights already have a problem where, like, if 1 or 2 Knights too many just blow up, then all of a sudden a big chunk of your army takes like 73 mortal wounds, and if one of those is Abaddon and that number's a 3, then all of a sudden you've lost the game. And that has happened to me before in practice games, which has been a bummer. So I can see why some folks don't like it. I still think it's a powerful list. It shoots pretty hard. Abaddon's a great toolbox thing to have into matchups like Demons, because you can just lock down one or more greater demons in one turn, and if he gets off a lockdown on 2 demons, the game is basically over. And into other matchups, he's great as well. Obviously, I haven't played against Tau at this list. I want to see what that feels like, but he could be very helpful there as well, just as a big bully piece that they have to take a bunch of turns to kill. And yeah, I think it has strengths. I think it has weaknesses. It was great to get to play it this weekend, though. I could already see myself by round 4 or 5 correcting mistakes that I was making in the first couple rounds, just things I was doing that were really stupid. And so it was great to see that I could really quickly apply like the mental feedback I was keeping track of to improve my play so promptly, because usually I'm take a little longer to catch on with those kind of lessons. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think I'm going to keep playing Dog Walker. I'm probably going to bring it to Slaneshmus. It's probably safer than the Big Knight. The Big Knight can just get blown up at the end of the day. And yeah, Orcs are also fun. I'm going to play them in some practice games. We're doing some reps on WTC, and I think they have a lot more play on WTC than Chaos Knights do, just because of the way terrain works. But yeah, they're really fun. Probably not going to be playing them on player place terrain for singles, just because of how many bad matchups they are and how hard it is to cross the killing field if the opponent makes it really open. But yeah, Orcs are pretty fun as well. So expect some more Orc battle reports in the future. And we'll definitely be telling you guys about how they're doing on the WTC boards.
Now, what about you, Tyler? Big question here. Forces?
Yeah.
Or
This is not where I wanted an answer. What I wanted was to either win this tournament or at least go 5-0 and be like, yeah, Forces, I know what I'm doing. I'm good at this game. I'm going to keep playing them, and I'm going to fight for best in faction Forces. That'll be fun. Or to go like 3-2 and be like, all right, I got my butt kicked multiple times. Like, this army is not good. I need to stop doing this. Let me go play the Mono GSC, which I believe is much better. I'm annoyed. I got neither of those things. I went 4-1 and lost to Lucas, which is like, cool. I lose to Lucas. This is just kind of what happens. Like, this is the reality of the situation, apparently regardless of what I play. And then I proceeded to lose to Lucas's Orcs with the GSC. Spoilers if that becomes a bit rep. You listened to 3 hours of TNG. I'm going to spoil that for you. Sorry. That was interesting. So I'm not really sure. Here are some other confounding factors. Number 1, the GSC is really freaking hard to play, and particularly to play quickly, and I am not known for playing quickly. Number 2, I'm borrowing models currently to play it, which is not actually an issue. Like, I can do that for sure, but like, you know, I love my stuff. It's nice to play with your own things. So that's a question. And then the other massive question mark is Guard. Guard do really, really not nice things to GSC. Also to Forces to a lesser extent. But like, I think I still have enough play into them. The problem with Guard is they have an order which tells their entire army, all of their infantry, to turn into infiltrators and deep strike deny at 12 inches. And everyone will have Pony Boy or a Commissar, so everyone will be able to do this. And it just says GSC do not get to play the game, basically. Lucas got very close to the camera and said something, but he was muted, so I have no idea what it was.
What?
Yeah. So that's big silly, and I don't like that at all. So that, yeah. And then they also, like, potentially could have a lot of sniper rifles and a death strike, and the death strike says, your ball of characters get out, and the snipers say, your banner boy is dead. And, like, I don't know, man. It's awful. And then you listen to 3 hours of TNG, you get the good stuff. We talked about this in the Discord a little bit, so you're functionally a Patreon member at this point. Brood Brothers exist. Potentially, we don't know. There's a lot up in the air. But the Brood Brothers have, if the FAQs line up right that this is possible, in the guard book there is in fact the Aegis defense line.
It's not going to be in time for LVO, dude. You know it's not.
We'll see what happens.
You know that.
So I want to mention this because I think this is the coolest thing ever. So the Aegis defense line is a fortification. So it would mean I would have to drop my Sporo Assist because I need to take a 3rd detachment, and obviously I'm not dropping all of my NIDs except the Sporo. I'd have to have a guard detachment so that I could then take some Brood Brothers in addition to it. And what it would do is it would provide an area terrain feature that has the following keywords. It has light cover. Love that. It has heavy cover. Love that. And it has a special rule, which is that anyone who's standing in it gets Armor of Contempt. Which means that my Tyrant Guard would go from their 2-up save base to a 1-up save from cover to a 0-up save from Naturalized Camouflage to a negative 1-up save from the Armor of Contempt provided by that, which goes up to a 0-up save in melee because it is heavy cover and the Armor of Contempt still works in that, though the Naturalized Camouflage doesn't. This means that Tyrant Guard would take 2-up saves against AP3 and 3-up saves against AP4. It would be so good. It would be so good. Especially with this new combo that I'm working on of like Tyrant Guard and Flyrant go take my opponent's quote-unquote safe objective. If I could just park that terrain feature right there and have both squads jump out and be like, hey, here's 10 dudes with negative 1-up saves, T6, 4 wounds, -1 to hit. And then if you don't kill them all, there's a Hive Tyrant that's knocking on your door. Like, it makes me feel things. I really want it.
I'm so glad the Tyranids allies fortification network is going to start showing up into your list, dude.
So we'll see. To be clear, do not try to take this to a tournament tomorrow. That would be nonsense. First of all,
guard aren't out.
The Guard Codex isn't out yet. Second of all, the Brood Brothers interaction, currently rules as written, does not work at all because nothing in the Guard Codex has the right keywords for it. So until that gets an FAQ, you cannot bring any kind of Brood Brothers. Next thing to consider, the Aegis Defense Line is getting a new model, which may be very different from the current one. So if you're playing the current one as the new one, I don't know, talk to your TO about how to make that seem fair if you're just playing Guard. Like before you do anything funky, like if it's, you could definitely take it. Consider that because it may look very different than we expect it to. So those are all awkward things to consider and figure out. So this is like kind of looming. This is definitely not happening at Slaanesh. We'll see about in Vegas. But Slaanesh list lock is like a week from today, right? It's like next Friday or next Saturday.
Yep. It's the day the guard book comes out.
Yeah, so I'm basically going to get like 1 or 2 more practice reps with Mono G, at least, or 2 or 3 more reps with Mono GSC to see how that feels, and we'll go from there. But we also just got the ruling that first floor is going to be blocking at LVO, which is honestly good for both of them, but it feels really good for a Sporosist, I'll tell you that much. I will also say, breaking news, you heard it here first, the 7 people watching. FLG just released an announcement. Lucas and Nick don't even know about this yet. Boxes will not be getting first floor blocking. They have specified which pieces of terrain get it. On the cathedral table, it's just the giant cathedral. On the orc table, it's just the L.
Let's go. They nailed it again, baby.
The orc huts
got first floor blocking on defined pieces
the
of
orc
terrain.
huts, if it doesn't have any windows, it doesn't have any windows. That's still there. But like the 2 orc buildings that are like taped together,
yeah.
That thing is played as it exists, right? If it has windows, it has windows, and most of them have windows.
Okay.
I'm excited. That is a healthy compromise.
Yeah.
Yes.
All of them being windowed, boarded up is dumb, and all of them being open is also
We played
dumb.
a tournament with boxes, and it was a nightmare.
On the Chaos table, they are adding it to the really big one, which is great, so you can't see through that stupid door in the middle of it. That's a great change. Obviously, nothing is changing for the already solid L, and then they're not adding anything to the like solid, like weird 2 Ls thing. You know what I'm talking about?
That one's just basically light cover.
Yeah, it's basically like it's like an L for like 5 dudes. Can usually fit in there if you angle it right. But yeah, so I think this is a fantastic change. Very excited to see that. And on the urban table, the L-shaped ones get first floor blocking. The box in the middle does not. If you have the small rectangle boxes. No. It's the one with like the weird checkerboard buildings.
What about the airport?
Like this.
Yeah.
The airport is not at Vegas.
Oh, thank God, dude.
They haven't played that at an actual event in a minute.
Dude, I played on that like 3 times at BAO.
I was saying, but like they didn't play it at SoCal. I believe they are also putting
Is that the field base. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
No. Field base is what we just played on. I don't see field base on here either.
What the hell is
they do also. You talking about by the airport? Do you mean the one with the giant hangar, or do you mean the industrial one with like the?
Yeah, it's got a giant hangar, and then it's got a rectangle with like a air control tower. Not a rectangle, square.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the one your Hive Guard hid in when you played against Freebooters?
No. That's the industrial table. He's talking about a totally different one. You know, Jason has one. It has this massive box
Not really.
that Jason has cut in half. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
That's all right.
They also do have old champs being listed as being played at LVO, which is the one that Nick absolutely hates, with the like 2 giant pieces of GW terrain on a big base and a bunch of foams. The giant piece will be first floor blocking, which makes it totally playable, which is great because it's vaguely L-shaped. So that's a great change. I think that table is totally good. I'm very excited to see how this plays out in practice. I think honestly, FOG has nailed this. Given the constraints that they're working under, I am very excited and very impressed. So we've been shitting on FLG a lot recently, both here and especially in Discord. Guys, 2 thumbs up. The responsiveness to feedback is fantastic.
I wish they tested it at SoCal, but I'm glad it's happening at LVO. Because it's like, we're definitely going to get people calling judges at LVO being like, what? You know, how does this work? You know,
the one potential issue with this at non-FLG events that practice FLG terrain, I know that's a very specific subset, but it is the events we're going to up here, like on Bird's setup and over in Atomic City, is we won't have it very clarified which pieces are what, because obviously there's a lot of like, what does this count as?
The general rule is that basically it looks to me every single table has 1 piece of first floor blocking, and it's basically the biggest piece that isn't a box. And I think that if Bird goes through and makes that kind of adjustment, I think that'll be a totally doable thing.
It's them basically turning things that are vaguely L-shaped into true Ls. Which is good.
Yeah. So that'll be great. I'm very excited to see how that all shakes out. We should definitely get some practice on our chaos table now with that in mind. As much as we're also definitely enjoying our WTC style practice as well, because that table set is also great. So cool. I think that's all the things. Do you guys have anything else to say about the event before I plug the stuff?
Go for it. Oh, come to Rosehammer GT. It's in March. Sign up. You motherfrickers. Only 10 of you are signed up so far. More of you need to sign up. And come to Slaneshmas. It's in 2 weeks in Ocean Shores. It's going to be probably the biggest tournament in the Northwest this year. It's going to be lit. Every year it is. And I'll actually get to stay the whole time this time, and I know you guys also will as well. So it's going to be fun.
If you knock me out round 2 this time again, I'm gonna dude,
Lucas going for
I
another
felt
100%
so
win rate.
guilty about that game. I'm not gonna lie, dude.
I am your ride this time. You are not leaving the event without me. I refuse. We're gonna play in round 2. I'm gonna beat you this time. I'm gonna call it right now.
Bring it on, dude.
But yeah, I think there's still a couple of Slaneshmas tickets available. They're selling very fast though, so if you want to go to that event, get it quick. It's in 2 weeks, so like obviously you need.
It's already hit major status too. There's like 60 people.
There's over 70 people going.
There you go, dude.
It's an Ocean. Nicholas James asks where the PNW tournament is. It's in Ocean Shores, Washington, which is it's a bit of a drive from Canada, but it is the event to go to. It's going to be huge, 100-player cap, 6 rounds, going to be awesome stuff. It'll be great practice for Vegas. Really good players coming in from all over the area. So definitely come to Slaneshmas and get those tickets quick.
If you live in BC, like if you live in the Vancouver area, it shouldn't be too bad. It's probably like a 3-hour drive.
3-hour drive? Yeah, probably something like that.
Definitely worth it for a major.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
There's no airports anywhere nearby, so don't try to do that. Yeah, just accept the drive. All right, so with that all said and done, here's some plugs. If you're still listening at the 3-hour and 10-minute mark, you're crazy, but you should also probably be in our Discord so we can keep talking 24/7. Check us out on Patreon for that. If you want to see us do bit reps, and yes, we are the TNG guys. We did film our first bit rep last night. We'll see how that shakes out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure to become a member on the YouTube so you can get double the bit rep content there. Check out our other stuff in other places. Do subscribe to us on YouTube. That's a really big thing. If you're watching right now and you're not subscribed, it doesn't cost you anything, and it's the best way to get us support in GW's eyes. If you want us reviewing product and stuff in the future, that's where it's got to be. So there's those couple of things. If you like our faces or our stupid little logo, and we got some more stuff coming as well. Head over to bestintabletop.com/store. We sell a bunch of cool shit. I've got shirts on it that say things like "Guns are for chumps." We got shirts that say "Hail to the King." We got shirts that say "Stomp 'em good,
baby."
And we got TNG branded stuff. Lots of cool stuff over there. Go check it out. That's gonna be about it, I think. Subscribe to us. Reviews are also really great. You know, that's the thing. And I mean, if you want to just like personal message Colin Sherman and tell him how incredibly handsome
wonderful we are,
dude. That's also an option you can do. If
do
leave reviews, If you love this show, you know our names. If you didn't love our show, if you shot this is terrible, you're listening 3 hours and 10 minutes in. This has been 40K Frontiers. I hope you go write a real angry review about it. Anyway, with that all said and done, thank you so much for listening. I've been Tyler.
I've been Nick.
And I am Lucas Baked Beans Troller.
And we'll see you next week for our Slaanesh prep and maybe something else episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care now.